What a week.
What a week.
You totally can't see the
sad.
mic right up to you.
Eventful and sad.
All right, so that's it for today's show.
Yeah, I feel like we should
Thanks
have
for
used
tuning into another edition of the Feel Out. Before we get too deep into this, be sure to follow us on Twitter, guys, at Feel05. Our Facebook page is Feel 2005. Check out our website too, Feel5.com. Be sure to check out our friends over on DynamoTheory.com. We'll load all our articles up on there. Links to eventful and sad.
All right, so that's it for today's show.
Yeah, I feel like we should
Thanks
have
for
used
tuning into another edition of the Feel Out.
It's working.
Before we get too well, a lot of people upload Twitter, guys, at Feel05. I'm gonna find out off the air. Also, be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel and go ahead and get down to DynamoTheory.com.
Like the video and share the page.
Yes. We'll be taking the links to
All right, so that's it for today's show.
I feel like we should have used It's working.
Before we get too well, a lot of people upload Twitter, guys. I guess because it was too busy.
No, it won't. Once you go live with the mic, it stops.
Also, be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel. But our text in line, 832-190-7359.
You butchered that. Started over.
All right, so that's it for today's show.
9 minutes. I feel like we should have that number again for those that are dyslexic is 832-910-7359.
Hashtag blame Justin.
No, it won't. That's right. This would be some random dude here in Houston getting these text messages
Make it a
about the
trending topic on
Dynamo.
Twitter.
But our text in line,
9 minutes. I feel like we should have that number again for those that are dyslexic is 832-910-7359.
Hashtag blame Justin.
No, it won't. That's right. This would be some random dude here in Houston getting these text messages about the Dynamo. Did you have that still going?
No, I had our text in line.
We missed all of our
So that entire intro needs to be trashed. We just need to start over.
great intro.
Yeah, it was working great before. No, it wasn't working. 910-7359.
All right, guys. Hey, it's been a great show.
Right. This is some random dude here in Houston getting these text messages about the Dynamo. Did you have that still going?
Shut off. We missed all of our
If you guys can't figure that entire intro is crap out, you can't be on the air.
We're losing money over here.
I mean, the thing is, if we don't have video streaming, it's all it was working great before. No, it works. 910-7359.
All right, guys. Hey, it's been a great show.
Right. Anyways, if you're tuned in on YouTube, getting these text messages about the Dynamo, did you have that still going?
shut off.
All right, so if you want to listen to the audio, if you guys can't figure that entire intro is
Because then, if you want to listen to it on YouTube,
well, we're definitely going to hit that. We've passed our 5-minute intro BS like always, Mark. So we should really start talking about Seattle versus Houston. But we're kind of waiting until Justin's ready. So
Can we just
how we
talk
doing
about
here,
how
Justin?
They can't hear us at all. So.
Yeah.
That's because he muted it now or something. He's trying to figure it out and he's having problems. I told you to write the instructions down.
No. Oh, wait.
Because then, if you want to listen to
Hey,
it, all right.
Well, we're definitely going to hit that. We've passed our 5-minute
we're back.
intro.
Do we have to-
Write down
do we
what
have
you
to go to
did
a
so
break
you
already?
don't forget
Really
it.
start talking about. All right, so I'm going to go through real quick while you guys are listening now that you can hear us. So, welcome to another edition of The Peel.
How we doing
Thanks
here,
for tuning in on YouTube and on KTXF DB The Real. You had to write all this down.
I did.
Part of the.
Trying to
figure it out. Sorry. I'm going to start over because he's got a little thing. Welcome to another edition of The Peel. Thank you for tuning in on YouTube and on KTXF TV The Real via TuneIn. Part of the Texas Sports Review Network. Be sure to follow us on
Right now, what you did so you don't forget Peel 2005.
All right, so I'm going to go through real
thepeel
quick while you
live.com.
guys are listening so that you can hear us.
Subscribe
welcome
to
to another
YouTube
edition of The
channel.
Peel.
Thanks for tuning in on YouTube and on KTXF TV The Real. You had to write all the crappy audio to start. Part of the we have the Peel phone number. You can call in. I'm going to start over because he's got a little thing. 849. Welcome to another edition of The Peel. Thank you for tuning in on YouTube and on KTXF TV The Real. And we have a text in line. Part of the KTXF TV The Real. Be sure to follow us on. Right now, what you did so you don't forget 2007.
All right, so
the
I'm going to go
website
through real quick while you
number again is 832-910. Subscribe to another edition of The Peel. Thanks for tuning in on YouTube and on KTXF.
Justin did a good job.
Good
job figuring it out.
Part of the
You know what it was?
we have the Peel
It
phone
was that
number. You can call
virtual
in.
cable
Start over
because
because
the
he's got a
app
little
is
thing.
open.
Welcome to another edition
For
of
some reason, it loops.
Okay, good enough. All right, so anyway, so
We have now PS. We've gone through all that. Sad week. Right now, what you did is
We suck and I hate
the
I'm going to go
website
through real quick while you
number again is 832-910. Subscribe to another edition of The Peel. You had a pretty good
Stop touching me because I hate you too.
Justin did a good job. Pretty solid.
No, it's actually
Part
part
of
of
You know what it was?
we have
It was that virtual
for anyone that
cable
doesn't know, you
because
should
the
like
app is
tell
open.
everybody
Welcome to another edition
For some reason, it loops.
Okay, good enough. All right, so anyway, so
we have now PS. We've gone through all that. Sad week. Right now, what you did is
We suck and I hate
the
you.
website
real quick while you
number
is he listening to it? Okay, maybe.
Subscribe to another edition of The Peel. I did such a great intro.
Stop touching me because I hate you
Justin
too.
did a good job. Pretty solid.
No, it's actually part of
You know what it was?
We have
It was that virtual
for anyone that
cable
doesn't know, you should like
It is
tell
echoing.
everybody.
For some reason, it loops.
You can totally ignore the audio.
We have now KTXF.
No wonder Victor hasn't come in yet. He's probably,
He's probably listening out in the car like, oh man, this is such a shoddy operation.
Is he listening to it? Okay, maybe.
Oh, you know what? Such a great intro.
Stop touching me because
I gotta go.
Guys, I'm sorry.
They're doing a last minute soccer matters. We
It
have
was that virtual
anyone that
cable.
doesn't know, you should like
It is echoing. Like Glenn decided he had to do a soccer matter show, and I don't know
what
totally
happened.
ignored the audio.
We have
Part two.
KTXF.
No wonder Victor hasn't come in
For
yet.
now,
He's
just
Probably listening out in the car like, oh man, this is such a shoddy
is
operation.
he listening to it? Okay, maybe.
Oh, you know what? Such a great intro.
Stop touching me because
I gotta go.
Guys,
We're gonna start
They're
at
doing a last
7:30.
minute soccer matters. We
It
have
was that virtual
anyone that
cable.
doesn't know, you should like
Like Glenn decided he had to do a soccer matter show.
We're
and I
gonna
don't know
what
totally
happened.
ignored the audio. Part two.
KTXF.
no wonder Victor hasn't come in
For
yet.
now,
He's
just
Probably listening out in the car like, oh man, this is such a shoddy operation.
is he listening to it? Okay, maybe.
Oh, you know what? Such a great intro.
Stop touching me.
I gotta go.
Guys,
We're gonna start
They're
at
doing a last
7:30.
minute soccer matters.
So,
should have just did Facebook Live again.
Like Glenn decided he had to do a soccer matter show. and I don't know
What
totally
happened.
ignored the audio.
Hey guys, we're gonna take a quick break, try to figure this out. Give us like 2 minutes.
You're able to listen. Probably listening out in the car like, oh man, this is such a shoddy operation.
Is he listening to it? Okay, maybe.
I gotta go.
Guys,
We're gonna start
They're
at
doing a last minute soccer matters.
so,
should have just did Facebook Live again.
like Glenn decided he had to do a soccer matter show. and I don't know
What
totally
happened.
ignored the audio.
We're gonna take a quick break, try to figure this out. Give us like 2 minutes.
You're able to listen. Probably listening out in the car like, oh man, this is such a shoddy operation.
Is he listening to it? Okay, maybe.
I bet Glenn doesn't do that for his show.
Well, I gotta go.
We're gonna start at
They're doing a last minute soccer matters.
so.
Should have just did Facebook Live again.
like Glenn decided he had to do a soccer matter show.
awesome. Chicago just had a golden opportunity. Or is that Washington?
Oh,
that was
That was
Washington.
good, dude.
Meme generator.
That was fantastic. Chicago just had a
I
golden
think we might be back.
Oh, they can see us right now.
No, he means audio.
All right, so
Are we good? Are we?
yes,
are we
we're
ready?
not on KTXF.
Okay, we're not on KTXF. Okay, are we on YouTube now?
Yeah, so we're gonna restart this.
All right. So if you're on YouTube listening,
Hold on. So
are we good? Are
yes,
we
we're
ready?
not on KTXF.
Okay, we're not on KTXF. Okay, are we on YouTube now?
Yeah, so we're gonna restart this.
All right. So if you're on YouTube listening,
So
are we good? Are we ready? Okay, we're not on KTXF. Okay, are we on YouTube now? All right. So if you're on YouTube listening, are we good? Are we ready? Okay, we're not on KTXF. Okay, are we on YouTube now? All right. So if you're on YouTube listening, are we good? Okay, we're not on KTXF. Okay, are we on YouTube now? All right. So if you're on YouTube listening.
welcome to another edition of the Peel. Thanks for tuning in on the TuneIn app and on YouTube. God, you guys are killing me. Yeah, we had some technical difficulties. Thanks for tuning in on the TuneIn app of this and on YouTube.
We're not going to. We just
No.
restarted all of this. Go ahead.
Yeah, so be sure to give the video a like. Yeah, we had some technical difficulties. Thanks for tuning in on the TuneIn app of this and on subscribe to our channel.
This intro just went
So south, so fast. Go ahead.
Yeah, so be sure to give the video a like.
He
Yeah,
wanted
we
to
had some
host
technical
an intro
difficulties.
so bad.
Thanks for tuning in app of this and on subscribe to our channel.
This intro just
Start
went
over.
so
Start
south.
over.
Follow us on Twitter at Peel 2005. The Peel 05. We have host an intro
So bad.
Facebook at Peel 2005. Subscribe to our channel.
This intro just went so south.
Also, follow us on Twitter at Peel. Out of all this technical difficulties, we have host an intro
That's because you fed him gift.
Facebook at Peel 2005.
Just like, yeah, I would just stick around.
Also, follow us on Twitter.
coming on, man.
Out of all this technical difficulties, it normally isn't this bad. We're trying to figure out this whole thing.
Just like, yeah, I would just stick around.
Also, follow us on
Thanks for coming on, man.
out of all this technical that probably
does help.
This bad. We're trying to figure out this whole thing.
Just like, yeah, I would just stick around.
Also, follow us on
Thanks for coming on, man.
out of all this technical that probably
does help.
This bad.
Welcome back, everybody.
Just like, yeah, I would just stick around.
Yeah, technically YouTube is worldwide, so it does help.
You live in New Zealand, so you're
Why
live.
not get the furthest we can actually have somebody.
Yeah, I would just stick around.
Yeah, technically YouTube is worldwide, so it does help.
I'm pretty sure New Zealand, so you're
Why
live.
not get the furthest we can actually have somebody. Otherwise, you're dead to us, Wilson.
No, after he posted that meme, he's never dead.
Yeah, you're never dead to us now. Thank you for turning Justin into a
All right, so we've BS.
Otherwise, you're dead
Let's
to
move
us.
on to the no. After he posted that meme, he's never dead.
Yeah, you're never dead to us now. Thank you for turning Justin into a
All right, so we've BS.
Otherwise, you're dead
Let's
to
move
us.
on to the no. After he posted that. Yep, that's what it is. I could tell by the smirk on his face.
That happened to me on my first episode.
Oh yeah, it's easy to do with XSplit.
I think we finally have it fixed.
Okay, bear with us for like another 2 minutes before it actually catches up, and then you'll hear us live. So you want to start over again?
No. Oh, it's good. It's working. Good.
Okay, start over again because they didn't hear any of the important stuff.
Okay. For editing purposes, guys, we're going to start this over. So I can
Again.
So in case you're wondering, we're actually going to go 2 hours and 30 minutes,
yeah, something like that.
but Victor's not going to be there all the time.
Okay.
All right, so let's start.
All right. Welcome to another edition of The Peel. Thank you guys for tuning in on YouTube and on KTXFDB, the real part of the Texas Sports Review Network via the TuneIn app.
Good catch.
Be sure to follow us on Twitter at ThePeel05, Facebook ThePeel2005, our website ThePeelLive.com. Thanks to Sean. And subscribe to our YouTube channel and go ahead and give this video a like too. I will have the re-edited video.
And feel free to share
Yes.
the channel as well.
We will be taking your phone calls tonight. I'll read that number off when we get to that point. But we do have a text in line, 832-910-7359.
Fantastic.
Yes.
Good job. Thank you to KTXF, DB, The Real, and Chris Roth for the availability of the text line. You are the man for that. We do appreciate it.
Yes, I probably should log into that, by the way.
If you texted in the last minute that he's had it up.
I had it up, but then I shut it off.
Actually, no, you can go ahead and text because it holds the text regardless.
Yes.
So anyway, obviously this week we have a special guest. It is Victor Ariza from...
Thanks for having me on, guys.
From Soccer Matters.
Yes.
The
That
man.
is awesome. Soccer Matters.
What else?
Everywhere else.
Dynamo All Access, I guess, technically, too? Same show now.
They're not on anymore because they switched over to the other
Oh,
station.
that's right.
That's right. So
That's
now
right.
it's, I don't know what the name of that is, but...
It's some other Soccer Hour, Soccer Power Hour, or something like that.
Something like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I have a couple of stuff going around. I mean, I have some of the articles, obviously, on HoustonDynamo.com. I cover the team for the website. I'm writing on SportsMap now, sportsmap.com.
Where can they follow you on Twitter?
At Victor Ariza. And
We'll tweet it out.
The spelling for that, it's Araiza.
Edson's got it. He's going to tweet it out from the Peel right
Sweet. So we did listen to your article or your interview that you had with Glenn this week, and you did not hold back against this team.
Respect.
Especially in the play with
We're
Seattle.
at
Kinda
the end
have
of the
to.
season.
Yeah.
I mean, I just try to bring some analysis to the team. Obviously, there's a limited time. I think. I mean, listen. Other than you guys, I think Glenn's probably the only, and the hour they have on 610. That's probably the only airtime that there is for Houston Dynamo coverage. But I mean, let's face it. And actually, I think it's on 6:50 a.m. The hour they do. I mean, that's obviously going to be controlled by the team. It's more of interviews with the general manager, kind of recapping the ongoings. Glenn's probably the one on Soccer Matters is going to be a little bit more analytical, and obviously he'll have guests like Eddie Robinson and such. But
We had
even then, there's only a limited amount of space there because try to tackle the Premier League and
he's trying to go as global as possible and get as much
yeah.
soccer coverage in, and it's a very short period of time to do that.
All right, so
I mean, heck, we do 2 hours and we cover Dynamo and local, and we struggled some weeks to stay at 2 hours. We started at 1, and that didn't last very long.
yeah, so it goes everywhere. But I mean, I was just trying to again just give my thoughts, give my analysis on where the season was this year, and I mean, like I said on the show, the good part of it is compared to the last 3 years, this is a huge upside. The other end of that is, I mean, it's missed opportunity, and that's what you've had also the last couple of years. Obviously, this season it's masked a little because of good results, but even then, I think they could have done a little bit better. Considering still, I mean, what the amazing part is considering still. How much is this team? How much attention is this team getting about lowest budget in the league?
Yep.
Right, and even then, this team could have been a finalist. Now, that also goes to the way the league is set up, and giving a team like this a chance. But even then, they could have been a finalist. They could have been there, and I think it is a missed opportunity.
So we'll come back and talk the season as a whole, but this match itself, 5-0 aggregate total. We lose 3-0.
Right. Well, they weren't in it.
Nah, not at all.
So I guess we'll just walk through, I guess, a little bit, not necessarily play by play, but early on.
I don't know if I could handle a play-by-play of that game.
No, that might as well turn the game on.
Early on, what really stood out to you was the determining factor of why we played as bad as we did, like from the start.
I think, in my opinion, I think the lineup was a big part of it. What was everybody talking about? Well, the team themselves said this. They said, we want to go there, get a goal early on, and give ourselves a chance. You didn't have, I don't think, the lineup to be able to do that.
Yeah.
Your two of your most impactful players, think what you may think of them, but Eric Torres and Romel Quioto, and especially Quioto, because Elise wasn't available for this game. Quioto was the guy you needed explosively. Those guys weren't even in the starting lineup. Quioto apparently didn't travel, and Kubo was on the bench. And so it was basically Manotas by himself. Obviously, Vicente Sanchez tried to do a lot of that. But, I mean, other than that, who else did you have? Martinez was the one that, to me, kind of stood out. I guess if you had to pick a man of the match for the Dynamo, he stood out, and, he wasn't even there for the entire game. He got red carded. So, then the biggest thing to me is your strategy. You were going in there to try to get an early goal. No shots on target. Your first 30 minutes. The first shot on target was that goal from
Victor Rodriguez.
for Seattle. Yeah. That was the first shot on goal the entire game. So I'm talking. If you're the Dynamo trying to create chances, you didn't create any chances. You didn't even attempt any shots towards the goal. And when you did start attempting shots, the guy that stood out was your midfielder in Martinez.
How much of this do you think actually goes into preparation? I mean, they had a good 2-week break in between Portland and Seattle. I don't think that they had their mindset in it.
I think the preparation was bad. Wilmer said it after the game. He said in him, I told him, what was the difference in the series, and he said the preparation. They could have probably prepared better. And to me, it goes back that 2-week break. They didn't manage it the right way. Seattle did. Seattle had their feet on the ground. Schmetzer was talking about how dangerous Houston was, that they weren't going to underestimate them. And the Houston Dynamo, those first 2 weeks, I think, were too caught up in saying, and I don't know where this came from, because this was about the entire organization, right? I'm saying Mauro, who usually doesn't talk about this kind of stuff, Wilmer was talking about it. Even Chris Canetti, the president of the club, was talking about so focused on nobody's giving us a chance.
The underdog.
Right, the underdog mentality. Yeah. Who cares? I mean, go in there, prepare for Seattle. And I think a lot of that was, like I said, motivation maybe, but to me it didn't work. And Seattle was prepared for that and then some. Houston wasn't. On the other end, I think, and I understand that Wilmer has tried to implement a relaxed atmosphere to allow the team to not feel pressured. He doesn't want his players to feel pressure. Part of him being a player's coach, right? But
when it comes down to something like you said with the underdog, preparation, all that mindset, history. We've never won there. They've never won here. None of that matters.
And here's the craziest part of all of this. The entire year, whenever you painted something about them being an underdog or asked them about the road woes or whatever, they always shied away from that. They always we're the Houston Dynamo. We're gonna go in there. We're gonna do our game, and they never took that excuse. And then I don't know why all of a sudden this last series, all of a sudden they were the underdog.
Exactly. So, it's like, where is this team? Wait. It's like during regular season, y'all were kicking ass at home. So why all of a sudden are we going to bunker back and hold and say we're the underdogs in playoffs?
It almost feels like, based on what you guys are saying, that the Dynamo went into this almost preparing fans to lose. If you think about it, if they're going in, hey, we're the underdog, we're the underdog. And the whole season you haven't been focusing on that, then it's almost like they went in with the expectation that they were going to get run out of the stadium, and they were. So I do have to wonder if that has a very big part to play in it, is, not just what's being said, but if that's coming from the organization at the organizational level, and if you have multiple levels saying that, not just coach, but now you've got players and president, there's something to that. And it almost feels like, hey, we want to prepare the fans for the possibility that we're not going to make MLS Cup and be happy with what you got.
Yeah.
And that, to me, it's self-defeating.
Right.
We shouldn't have been considered underdogs. I mean, I know it was the first game of the season, but we beat them.
You make the West Coast Finals, or the Western Conference Finals. Western Conference Finals. You make the Western Conference Finals.
Well, regardless on the West Coast.
I mean, you're top 4 in the league. I mean, that's the way you need to look at it. You're top 2 in your conference and top 4 in the league.
Not an underdog.
You're no longer an underdog. Columbus wasn't an underdog.
And it gives more fuel to the fire for people like Merritt Paulson with Portland Timbers saying Seattle's got an easy path. Seattle's got an easy path. Well, don't make it an easy path for them. We're not underdogs. We're not going to count on that.
A lot of the chat going on right now is people are talking, or our listeners are talking about the space of the time that there was in between these matches that played a big deal of it, or a big part in all that. And Wilson's saying that there's talks to go down to a one-leg series.
Yes. To remove the home and away.
Honestly, next year I would feel that you have to. I mean, is the season getting pushed back a week at all?
You mean
because of World Cup?
So how it used
with
to
the
be
World Cup.
The one game in Eastern. See, I think if that was the case, they would have lost in that case too, and they had more of a chance.
I mean, we didn't succeed at home. We didn't succeed away. It wouldn't have mattered where we played.
They would have had a bigger chance, I think, because they would have had a home game.
And also, it doesn't matter what you say in the media. The pressure's on in a one-game scenario, regardless.
Oh yeah.
Look at how we played against SKC.
Yeah.
In the play-in match.
I guess
it's just funny to me because again, they come back from Portland, and granted that Seattle had 3 extra days, but they come back from Portland, and Seattle immediately goes to work again because they have those 3 extra days. They immediately goes to work. They're all doing their media stuff. The Dynamo take 4 days off, which that I'm not. I have no problem with that because that's routine. That's what you've been doing all season.
Yeah.
I don't expect you to go away from that. And usually guys have, a little space to clear their heads, whatever. But when you come back, I think you got to go back full on. Those 2 practices that weekend, to me, it's just it was too relaxed. It was more of a let's stay in shape kind of deal.
It was more fitness focused than an actual practice.
Right,
focus.
and to me, and something that didn't stand out. Wilmer took time off. He wasn't even at practice. So not that you needed him there, but especially with the way that I think there's some clashes going on in that locker room. I mean, if your boss doesn't show up to work, what happens?
Yeah.
I mean, you kind of
when the
take
cat's
your
away,
foot
the
off
mice
the
will
pedal,
play.
right?
Yeah.
And I mean, I think that's what happened that weekend. You come back the next week ready to go. In reality, you only really gave yourself 1 week to prepare for that first game.
And Seattle's spending 2 weeks in a few days.
Right. Now you switch it. Now you're going to the second leg, and again, even then you have a little bit of an advantage because it was like a week and 2 days difference between the 2 games.
Yeah.
So now you have a chance to. They got rid of this whole underdog mentality, right? Now they're all talking about, we're ready. Who isn't motivated? That was the thing now this time around. Who isn't motivated to play a final? We all want to play a final. And then, to me, the craziest thing is how sick did Romel Quioto have to be to miss a final?
You know what irritates me is the fact that he was back here in Houston.
He didn't even travel, right? Like, you think you'd at least put him, because, I guarantee you, when Brian Schmetzer looks at that bench, he knows who those 3 subs are going to be. He knows who's coming in. There's no surprise. So that to me was a little bit of the frustration from. They didn't give themselves a chance. It wasn't, they talked about nobody gave them a chance. I think that was the worst part. They didn't give themselves a chance.
It's more we had a chance and we blew it. I mean, it's kind of going back to like the home game. We had a chance when we had a full packed out house and set a record attendance and stuff, and we blew it. And it's just, I mean, it's frustrating. It's a bad way to end such a great season. Because my argument, one damn goal in the net. I mean,
because my argument is, you came this far, go down swinging.
Absolutely.
And that's
well. The thing is now you've basically changed the way you approached this series in comparison with everything else you've done the whole season. Like you said, I mean, you were fine with the 4 days off. I understand that for players and stuff like that. That's fine. If you're going to keep the same processes, the same approach for that, why aren't you keeping the same approach with everything else? Why are you changing different parts of how you handle, how you operate, how you practice? Mm-hmm. Why aren't you doing the same things you've always done? Do what got you there. Don't change it up. Don't fix what's not broken.
Yeah, and I mean, from that sense, that's why I said I think it's amazing. Yeah, what they did, but to me, whenever last year, people asked me who has to be the coach, I said Wilmer Cabrera.
Absolutely.
And listen, I don't want to glow too hard, but this is what I envisioned. As hard as this is what I envisioned. You get into the playoffs, which I think they could because of what it is, a mediocre MLS playoff system.
Yeah.
And with the right additions, they turned it around. And then you see what happens. And that's exactly what happened because honestly, they shouldn't have gotten past Portland, but the injuries opened that up. They were able to get to the Western Conference Final, successful season. Mm-hmm. But again, I still feel that there was an opportunity there to make much more of this season, and in the end, some of the stuff that was festering throughout the year showed itself, and that's what stopped them. The players, like I mentioned on the show the other day. The players, I have no doubt, when they said we gave it all we had, I agree. I think they did.
If there was a player that didn't see it,
but I think the preparation goes throughout the entire year.
Absolutely.
And this is where it ends up. And then
you're not preparing match to match. You were preparing throughout the entire season to
make
a
Wilmer
deep
at the
run.
beginning of the year said it's a marathon.
Exactly. Every match, you should be preparing for every match down the road, especially when you know you're in the playoffs. You should be preparing for the playoffs. You should be preparing for MLS Cup.
It kind of goes to like, you know, I was listening a few weeks ago to Soccer Matters, and he had DeMarcus Beasley on, and he was talking and he was asking, so how much is Seattle on your mind? It's really not on my mind. You know, I'm not thinking about them. I'm not really focused on them right now and stuff. And that was his mindset. I'm like, dude, we're like a few days away from this game. You are not focused and zoned in on that. Like, that would be like, you should be losing sleep over that. You know, like, focus on that.
And I think we'll finish up this segment with this thought. It feels like the Dynamo went in prepared to lose. Like, they were content with how far they'd made it. They felt like they'd proved what they needed to prove. No, exactly. And they were prepared to just accept losing. And, you know, and I've said it before. If you go in accepting a draw or accepting a loss, you're going to lose. If you don't go in, you know, prepared to win, which they didn't look like they were prepared to win. You said it exactly right. It was preparation. If you don't go in prepared to win and preparing to win, you're not going to win. It's as simple as that. It's not rocket science.
Yeah. The last thing on that, again, the whole season building up to this, at one point, the Houston Dynamo were first in the West.
Yes.
And I agree that was kind of catching the lead, taking advantage of early results, etc. But manage out the season, finish as the top seed. You get here, you're hosting on the second leg. It's a completely different scenario.
Totally different.
And that's what I'm talking about. You're setting yourself up to succeed.
Absolutely. And like you said, it's not, you know, and we said it, it's not just one match. You're not focusing on, your entire season should be about what your end result is.
Right.
It should not be about.
You get another road result.
Exactly. Yeah. It's another match in your season, and if it really is a marathon, if that's the way you're approaching it, then every freaking match matters. And if you're not preparing for every freaking match that includes playoffs, then you're not going in with the right mentality, and you're not going to succeed. You're not going to get to where.
Compare the records. Seattle won one extra game, and that's why they were hosting.
And that's it. Yeah.
Imagine a couple more games here and there. Different story.
I mean, there were matches this season that we lost at home in final seconds. You know, that could have been a draw. That's 2 points. I mean, that was a 2-point swing for us, or not a 2 point. That was ultimately a 3-point swing.
I'm sorry I had to bring this up, but 2012 that ultimately cost us the MLS Cup final, hosting it here.
Oh yeah,
and that hurt, you know. So I mean, every point matters.
And again, and that's where I go into internal pressure. It doesn't exist.
No, there is no accountability within the organization at the top levels, even down to the coaching level. I will say there is to some extent accountability for players, to some extent. But it's not at the level that it should be. There's no professional accountability for how this team does. Look at Canetti. He survived all 3 terrible seasons, plus 2010, which was our worst season before this. He survived all 4 of those seasons, and he still came out president with no change other than, hey, we're going to change our coaching staff. We're going to add a GM. I mean, I get it. He's a good business guy, but at the same time, look at what's happening with U.S. soccer. You miss one World Cup. And we're changing president now. We're going to, you know, I mean, there's a ton of changes that are going on.
I would argue there's a lot of similarities in both ways, but I don't know if you guys got to.
No, we don't need a cut. All right. Since we're not actually streaming live on KTXF, we can kind of flex a little bit. He can edit it later.
Yeah, I mean, I would argue there's a lot of similarities. I mean, they just hired another guy from Lone Star Sports and Entertainment for the front office.
Absolutely.
And I mean, that's, again, to the same deal of guys from the same fraternity. Nothing's going to change in that sense.
Let me put it this way. There's an organization run the exact same way in this city, in the Houston Texans. They have yet to win a Super Bowl in 14 years that they've been in existence. They've made the playoffs a few times.
And a lot of these guys are friends.
And it's not only that, the GM is the godfather of the owner's son's child. So, I mean, it's a good old boy network. And the problem when you operate that way is not only is there no accountability, but it's hard to keep guys accountable because they're friends.
And listen, and I'm not.
I gotta interject on Victor's behalf. You are getting crazy love right now on YouTube. Everybody's saying you need to start your own show.
Yeah. If you need help, we can hook you up. The Victor Hour.
Hey, why do you think I called him on the show tonight? Come on now. I was listening to him on Glenn. I was like, he's got a lot more he wants to say.
We need a 5th mic. That's all it is.
No, we just
bigger board.
We we relegate Butters to just social media.
That's wrong.
Hey, we love you.
Well,
Edson.
he's got his own show. He's got RGV down in the valley now. So
and actually, the reason I was calling in last week was I was giving you props for that episode that you did, dude.
Yeah, it was great, by the way.
That was awesome.
Yeah, I just looked on our page. It got like 51 views.
Yeah, this boy's over here just like outshining us now.
Maybe it's a social media manager. Got to give him some love too.
No, he's doing a good job.
I'm not against any all that. It happens everywhere. It happens in every company.
Absolutely.
My only issue is these guys. They don't allow anybody from the outside to bring in a different perspective.
And not only that, if you do, and you're a member of the media, and you have access to information to help you grow your listener base, and you've just hit on it, you end up shut out if you say the wrong thing about the wrong people. We don't care.
And it's not just a Houston Dynamo thing. It's a whole U.S. soccer thing.
That's common in most professional sports.
To be completely honest, I think that's why we haven't gotten emails back. Once that whole Kubo thing broke,
Hey, sorry, the truth hurts.
And there's more there, and there's more with other players. I mean,
no, absolutely.
It's just, but I mentioned this on our show the other day. I understand in that sense where Wilmer Cabrera is overprotected, but there's also.
But it's not a Wilmer thing. It's not Wilmer dictating that. That's an organizational thing.
I would argue that it is.
But there's been an organizational issue with that since
Kennedy
came on.
It was like that under Coyle. It was like that under Barrett.
Oliver Luck welcomed the accountability. Oliver Luck was completely okay with being trashed and ripped.
I
think to his point is kind of how much.
I speak of this year.
Yeah, how much is hidden from the fans, though?
Tons.
I mean, Josh, because I remember you strictly asking us, who do you think the face is? You asked us when we were first running the show, who do you think the face is of this team right now? And we sadly had to say Kubo because that's who we felt was getting shoved down our throats, was Kubo Torres. What we really want is Albert Elise to be the face, obviously, and it's kind of like how much is.
Well, I would say
hidden on that.
I would say that shifted. At least is now the face.
Well,
of the
because he earned it.
Yeah, but if you don't buy him, there he goes.
Exactly. I mean, if you don't,
then you're back to not having a face of the franchise.
They'll buy him or they'll extend the loan. I'm 99% sure on that. That's neither here nor there.
Let's hope. It's only hope.
We will get into some roster moves and what could happen, what may happen later in the show.
Yeah, and that was one of my big points this season because if you look at just this year. They had this window. We don't know what's going to happen next year.
Yeah,
and you know what? And you know what could happen next year? Honestly, they turned into the Colorado Rapids.
Was it all?
Remember the Colorado Rapids had a horrible season. Last year had an amazing campaign. They got to the Western Conference Finals, and then this year, where are they again?
Yep, dead last again. Yeah.
And I mean, what's stopping the Houston Dynamo from ending that way next year?
No, you're absolutely right.
Was it all a Band-Aid?
I do feel like to some extent a lot of that falls to ownership because there has to be some willingness to spend to bring in players. This has been something that I've known has been coming for a while. This team is going to be a cycle in, cycle out team year over year over year. There's going to be 2 to 3 players that you keep year over year that are your top level players, and everybody else is basically cycled. You look at the options that they decline. Now, I know that's not the end-all, be-all because they can be negotiating with a lot of those players. But at the end of the day, there's probably 8 or 9 positions right now that I would say need upgrades to keep up with MLS's elite. If we don't keep up with MLS's elite, I'm not saying we won't compete, but we're going to struggle to compete.
Blues fan, there's overprotection and there's bullying the team. No external pressure equals no expectation. Censored media is the easiest way to control the narrative.
Oh, that's absolutely 100% right.
Yeah.
I don't think we have enough fans in order to give them external pressure besides the media base, of course.
I think there's a large. I think the thing is that there is a large fan base. It's that they've been beat down so much, and that's just me knowing enough people that I can say that
nothing's going to change.
That they've been beat down so much that they just assume it's always going to be this way, and there's no other way around it. And you look at the media landscape for the Houston Dynamo. It's Corey, it's Glenn, it's your. That's really it. Eddie Robinson. I mean, that's besides us. That's it.
Lester Grass.
Lester's a big one, but that's it.
Yeah,
it really is.
I would tell you, from going to practice, and it's not me trying to, gloat myself here, but I'll tell you this from the media side of it. I think Corey is obviously your number one because he makes it to as many practices as possible.
He busts his butt.
Besides,
no, he busts his butt regardless.
Yeah, no, he does.
Besides Corey, I would think. There's a guy in Spanish, Jorge Clara. He does Deporte Hotel USA.
Yeah.
He's probably probably has many practice apps this season as Corey. I would include myself in that group.
Absolutely,
and then I would include Jesus Acevedo.
Yeah, Jesus.
I didn't mention any of the TV stations.
No.
I didn't.
No. They don't.
This is your group that covers the team on a week in, week out basis.
Only reason it's hard for me to get out there is because of work. But the times I have been out there, I think I've seen news out there twice, and that was right before they went to the playoffs. I saw Fox out there, and I saw.
And they were probably just getting video casts.
Usually it's preseason and like the
right
first
before
week.
playoffs.
And you know what's surprising as well is the Spanish media as well. Like you have.
It's probably not picking up. You probably need to come talking to him.
Yeah, come talk to the mic.
Just real quick, I find it surprising that that the Spanish media isn't on the Dynamo when you have so many Hispanics here that love the.
I will give him that I will defend him on. I was the only guy that traveled to Portland from the Houston market, and then for this last series, I was the only English guy out there. From the Houston market, but Lester was out there with Univision. Univision flew him out, and Hector Zapata was out there. He was covering it for Telemundo for Channel 47.
One question, and this will kind of wrap up this. Do you think if the Chronicle had been more involved from the beginning, because they were the entity that they had Jose Ortiz, when everything started. And they had him splitting time between the Dynamo and baseball, and his love was always baseball. He was never going to devote the time necessary to soccer.
I think he likes soccer just as much. I would. I guess I would have to ask him, but.
No, he said before himself that he loves baseball.
Yeah, but what I mean, because I've seen his passion for soccer.
Absolutely.
I would argue that.
And I'm not. That's not what I'm saying.
Well, I guess, yeah.
From the Chronicle, he was being told cover baseball more because that's what's selling papers.
And here's what I would argue, because I don't think enough people know this. When Jesus was covering the Dynamo on a full-time basis for the Houston Chronicle, probably. See, and I don't want to say the best, but maybe arguing to the best coverage because he was out there every single day for practice.
See, I've heard the total opposite from people that were out there.
No. He was out, and I can testify this. He was out there every single day. When it changed was when he had to split time.
Okay, that's what it was.
So then he was kind of in and out. But now you have Corey doing that. Yeah. And Corey does that because he has to split time between writing for the Chronicle and doing digital responsibility.
And then he's doing also high school sports too.
Well, I didn't
he
know
split 4 different ways.
And then and here's the thing with Corey. Corey can only be out there certain days.
Absolutely.
He schedules interviews on certain days. And for example, this last week, what was it? One of these last few weeks, because he couldn't be there for the weekend because of his, again, Chronicle responsibilities.
Yeah.
So he had scheduled to speak with Wilmer. It was right after that game, right? So it's Tuesday. Wilmer didn't speak on Wednesday.
So it would have been
Thursday they were off. I think Friday, Wilmer was supposed to speak to the media. Wilmer ditches on the media. And then so Corey isn't able to put anything on the Chronicle. Yeah. And then in the weekend, I didn't need anything from Wilmer. So whenever they asked me, I said, "Listen, man, I know he doesn't want to talk. I don't need quotes."
Yeah.
So then Wilmer, you're talking
it would have been the same thing.
So you're talking about Wilmer, the head coach of the team, Wilmer Cabrera, speaks at the press conference after the game, and then doesn't speak with the media until a week later.
So you as a media, I have a question for that. You as a media guy, does that make it where you feel less obliged to give that coverage? Now, you are a little different situation, but in general, as a media guy,
I am telling you this. If I'm a TV station...
Is that a disrespectful type thing?
It is a disrespectful thing.
Yeah, okay, that's what I was getting at.
If I'm a TV station, if I'm an editor, it's like, they don't want us to cover them, then don't go cover them.
Yeah.
And it's happened, I'm sure it's happened to TV stations here.
Absolutely.
And that's why they don't cover the team.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
you can only burn it. You can only, I mean, it's got to be a partnership from a media standpoint to some degree. And there's supposed to be somebody at the Dynamo organization that's managing the media to some extent.
Here's what I will say. It's not the communication staff fault.
No.
They try to do what they can.
Hector, Zach, all those guys.
Zach is amazing. I talked to him.
Their hands are tied.
Yeah, they are. But that's my point, though, right? Isn't that an organizational thing?
Right.
I agree. And the question I want answered, and you can't answer this, and nobody really can except for the person I'm about to call out, but does that come from the top down?
But maybe,
is that an organizational thing? Because that's been around for years. That's been the way it's been.
But this is almost like a common sense thing. The more coverage you get, whether it's negative or positive, The more asses you put in the seats, the more tickets you sell. Okay? The more spotlight you'll get too.
Yeah.
Okay?
We know all about like the negative part, obviously, because.
But I don't understand why you would tie hands and not give yourself as much coverage in a market that you're struggling to get coverage anyway.
That's a leadership style. I've heard stories.
Eddie did tweet from us because we quoted how much is hidden from the fans. His response is, "Don't ask questions you can't handle the answers to."
And that's
sadly not the truth.
That's
probably.
a huge point.
Yeah.
But at the same time,
it'd probably break our hearts. I'm like, break my heart.
But the thing is if you never reveal the, okay, so there's two sides of that. One, the truth is always going to reveal itself eventually. Mm-hmm. Whether it's us, whether it's somebody else that comes along, somebody's going to get the truth out of all that. Mm-hmm. Go ahead.
I think it goes to two things that or a couple of things that we've always said about this organization over the years. There's a lack of accountability.
Yes.
There's a lack of transparency.
Yes.
To me, listen, there was supposed to be a season ticket holder event Monday night, right, with the players.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. To me, the way that you cancel that at the last minute, and these are your season ticket holders.
Yeah, these are your bread and butter.
Yeah. To me, that was a slap in the face, canceling that event.
Absolutely.
And I know that
but
outside circumstances,
well,
but to me, what it looks like,
you knew you were in the playoffs a month and a half, 2 months ago.
If they
cancel it.
If they make the MLS Cup, this event happens. There's no doubt in my mind.
Yeah.
My thing is, even if they lost, are you honestly, remove yourself from the media side of it, but are you actually upset, or are you more proud about how far this team went?
If I'm a season ticket holder and that happens, to me, that shows you the organization doesn't care. You won't.
No. But the thing is, that type of reaction, that type of, as he put it, slap to the face, that kind of eliminates any satisfaction that you.
I was gonna get there. I was gonna get to that.
You were trying to connect it the other way.
I'm sorry. They're showing Seattle. I'm like, I just toured that entire place.
As a fan, as a whole,
good pictures from there, by the way.
Oh yeah.
As a fan, as a whole, did you expect this team was going to get this far? And if you were to go to an event like that, are you going to trash the team? No, you're going to be like, congratulations on the season compared to last year.
Here's my frustrations. Yes, it's awesome they made it this far, but how the way the season ended, how that series went, you couldn't put one goal up, and that shows the lack of preparation heading into this, how serious you actually take this. It's like, okay, you made it to the playoffs. Is that all you want? Is that all you really want?
Well, I guess my thing with this event is this was supposed to be a celebration of the season. I think for the most part, fans would have been glad. It's an opportunity for you to mingle with the players.
Absolutely.
And you take that away from fans. You're going to schedule it maybe for the beginning of 2018.
Yeah, it'll be a preseason thing.
All the people that you wanted to celebrate, and think about it this way.
May not even be there.
Right.
Yeah.
Ricardo Clark, who was the last original Dynamo. Yeah. This could have been a retirement tribute ceremony. Yep. You don't have that.
Do it up big, yeah.
And that in itself, it's another missed opportunity.
Absolutely.
We can go on and on and on.
The thing is it's getting love because the fans want to hear this stuff. They really do.
They do. But I'm sure we're blowing. How many listeners?
I'm going to give, and this is going to sound terrible because I'm usually the one to rip, but I'm going to actually give the Dynamo a bit of a break on this because at the same time that this event would have been going on, you're also telling players that, hey, we're not renewing your contract, or hey, we're not extending you, because that would have been back to back, right?
Right, but
that was when they were supposed to be releasing.
Don't reveal it until Tuesday, which they didn't do anyways. Yeah, and to me, that's another.
Well, but see, the players. There are players at that point that are no longer under contract.
Yeah, and and that shows you how much the players have dictated things this season.
Absolutely, 100%. That's what I was getting at.
I'm gonna, for editing purposes, I am gonna throw this to a break when we get back.
Break.
Yeah, we got to get this man a beer.
He does deserve.
I thought he had a beer.
Yeah. He deserves a beer. I thought he had a beer.
Hey, Butters, beer.
When we get back,
hey, while you're beering him, beer me.
Might as well beer me too.
Thank you. Thank you, sir.
We'll look back at the season, your thoughts and your standouts, individual efforts.
Yes, my 5 awards that I've created.
Yeah, and then we'll do our awards, the Peel Awards. Sean named them after players. Pretty awesome. We'll go around the table with that. Hey, you're gonna have to pop that open for him too. God, do you know how to be a waiter? But yeah, when we get back, we'll cover all that. We'll be back in one.
Hi, I'm Andrew Wanger, and you're listening to The Peel.
back.
Welcome back to the Peel.
I'm sorry. I was going to say this at the beginning before we had all of our issues and stuff. I wanted to dedicate this episode to my fiance.
Oh,
yes,
snap.
we were gonna do that in the intro. First off, congratulations.
Thank you.
Effing
Effing-lations.
Yes, it was awesome. I proposed to her at the top of the Space Needle. It was
by the way, that
pretty,
was well
pretty,
played, sir.
Pretty cliche, but I'll take it. It was pretty awesome at the same time.
Yeah, no, totally.
Thank you.
Well done. Well done.
Yes.
You did good.
Be sure to check us out on Twitter, the Peel05, Facebook, the Peel 2005, our website, thepeellive.com.
Your dog's tail was making my leg numb.
Oh yeah, his tail's brutal.
Brutal
subscribe
Brutus.
to our YouTube channel. And
Yeah.
go ahead and like this video too. The text line is open 832-910-7359.
Numbers are in front of you and you're like, is that number? I'm just kidding.
I'm used to reading off the other one.
And the phone line, which is not open quite yet, because I don't think I heard you say that, is 281-849-PEEL, which is 7335.
Somebody tweeted, how do you guys feel about Racker's attempts of misleading and angering the media?
So you mean someone is it Racker that tweeted that? So just so you know, Gabe, we appreciate and
He is probably one of my favorite ones.
The only problem is you have to be really careful because people will pick up on his stuff and they will tweet it out like it's legit sources. Yeah. So there was a Spanish publication that picked up on his tweet about Kyoto and Kyoto and LA Galaxy with Zardes swapping players and us sending them them sending us an international slot.
That's
hilarious. And they picked it up and they ran with it for like an hour and a half before it got cleared up. The dude is really good at trolling. He's so good though that it's like you have to be very careful. So every time somebody posts something that, hey, I saw that this was on Twitter, I'm like, hey, is it a rumor? Did Gabe/Racker post it? It's great.
So we're gonna go ahead and look back at the season. I know you guys have more of a photographic memory than I do.
We scored some goals. We conceded some goals.
We did do that.
We lost in Western Conference Finals, and that was the season.
Before we get to our guest, especially because he covers the team in depth, to you, standout moment or player or one thing. We'll get to the awards.
But that's one of my awards. The final award.
Oh, I didn't even see the very bottom one.
Okay, we'll wait. Things.
Okay, well then I guess we'll go ahead and do our team MVP, not the actual team's MVP, unless it's the same. Yes. But we are going to call this the Brad Davis Award.
Yes, we are.
So, Sean, who would win your Brad Davis
Juan
Award?
David Cabezas.
None of them are worthy of the Brad Davis Award. There can only be one.
Well, okay, so
no, I'm sorry. Yeah,
you should have said that before I started.
I mean, dang, that's kind of tough.
I don't even get to say why. Like I just say a name.
No, not at all. No, forget you. No, go ahead. Say why. No, go ahead. Because I actually need a minute to think about.
Okay, so Juan David Cabezas. I think it's pretty simple. I've told you he's the MVP for me, for the team MVP for the whole season. I've said it time and time again. You needed a wrecker back there, somebody that could basically anchor in front of that line. Stop a lot of your, really high-level attacking mids, your center mids that are really talented at MLS. And he did that. He did that with Alexander next to him. He did it with Rico next to him. He even did it with Boney next to him. The guy was able to do it no matter who he was paired with and no matter if he was by himself or not. He was that good. The only time he struggled is in the Western Conference Finals, and he struggled mightily, but it's because he had no help. Alexander was trash. Okay, so that was mine. Are you ready now? Did you come up with one? Do I need to skip you?
Sorry, I was so intrigued by
the
dog running around.
Victor, who is your team? We'll come back to you. You're good. We'll come back to you.
I would go with Cabezas too.
All right.
Because he had such a unique position on this team. He was probably the least replaceable guy.
Absolutely.
That's who I would go with. It'd be great if they could bring him back. If not, they're just gonna have to find somebody else that can do virtually the same thing. But then you're gonna have to start over and. I think if you put some continuity there, that would.
I feel very, very strongly that he's probably coming back. Strong enough that I would put it at like 99.9% sure that he's coming back.
Would you put a bet on it?
I would put money on that right now.
Okay,
actually,
right, there you go.
I would definitely.
There you go.
I believe he is coming back. But I completely agreed with you. I mean, and the thing was that was a position that if you looked at last year. Rico kind of tried to play that, but that's not the style that he plays with. And we didn't really have that wrecker. I mean, we had Garrido before that, but he was kind of Cabezas was a more physical, taller guy, and he was smarter with how he fouled. Garrido, it didn't matter who you were. He was pulling your ass down.
So I 100% agree with you guys with Cabezas, but I'm going to throw another name out there who's my MVP.
Elise?
No. Vicente.
But he only played like 10 matches.
I agree.
He didn't play as many matches, that's why.
I agree.
I agree with
He didn't play a lot.
This is season award, not just, old
I know,
man
but
award.
when he did come in, he made an impact right away in every match he was in this year.
I mean,
if you're gonna go like that, I'd say Dylan Remick.
I would
but
say
I'm
not
gonna
every match. I would say
I'm not
going to
say Dylan Remick.
Minus maybe one.
No, there were 3 matches that he didn't. That he only played like 5 or 10
We're
minutes.
talking most valuable.
I wouldn't say
different
Vicente.
season. It's a different season without the
I'm so glad he's on right now. All right. Did you
I was tossing up between Tyler Derrick and Cabezas, but from the way that Tyler Derrick is going, I'm going to go Cabezas.
Well, not to mention, I mean, you had Willis there for a little while.
You did, you did have them splitting time.
I'm
but
saying if there was one guy you took off this team,
but I think from the fact that you did have Joe Willis. I think Tyler Derrick could have saved a couple of what Joe Willis missed, but I still think that I got to give it to Cabezas mainly because of how the things went down with Tyler Derrick, but. The reason I would have given it to Tyler Derrick is because of overcoming what he went through last year and then what he also came through at the beginning of this year. They were fighting at the beginning until Tyler Derrick kind of just took over.
I agree, but I there's just a dark spot with everything that happened with him.
Exactly, which is why I'm going to say Cabezas over him.
Good man.
Well, allegedly, right?
I mean, he deserves. I mean, no doubt about it. Cabezas definitely deserves it. There's no argument that
innocent until proven guilty.
Although it is allegedly. He's put himself in this situation numerous times with this chick.
Numerous? We're at 2.
Twice.
But, hey, to each their own.
But when you're playing that well, you need to think about every aspect of your life. And
I said this to you guys before, and I got to stand on this because I think you guys are giving him flack for something that honestly 90% of guys and 90% of girls out there do when you're in a relationship. Doesn't matter how crazy they are. You look past the crazy because you're in love.
We've all been there.
Yeah.
Trust me.
Yeah, no, I know. That's what I'm saying.
I don't
That's
know.
what I'm saying.
When you're a professional athlete, though, it's kind of like, dude, you have a career.
You say that, but how many professional
athletes
have gone through similar type of stuff?
We're in soccer, man. I don't care. I mean, it's just
it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what sport. Across the line, I mean, he should have. You got to think.
He should have known after the first incident. He should have broke it off then. He should have. However, I'll give him a pass because you know what? Again, when you're in that situation, and every situation is different, it can be hard to pull yourself out. So enough with that.
We're talking about good.
We're going to a really dark place.
We're going very dark now.
The Wade Barrett Award.
Defender of the Year.
Yes.
Next year we need cards that we can flip it open and vote ahead of time, and we can send it to like Victor and
Oh, this is easy.
We'll do Josh first.
Machado.
Machado.
Has to be.
Yeah.
I thought he was going to say Leonardo. What you guys talking about?
I mean, Machado's played virtually every
Oh
match.
my God! Actually, forget Tyler Derrick. He's my runner-up for MVP now. I mean, Cabezas. I'm sorry.
If Remick would have gotten the minutes he well deserved, this season, there'd be no doubt in my mind he would have been Defender of the Year.
If he stays, we have a bright future with him.
I would still say Machado.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I mean, it depends. Now, if we're talking, if he plays more than half of the matches and he scores 5 goals, 6 goals, that does change things tremendously because Machado's not a goal scorer. But at the same time, Machado had, out of all the defenders, he had the best defensive season. I really like what Machado brings. I hope the rumors of him going away are not true. Pretty certain they're not. But at the same time, he's not signed again.
I mean, you put some good points up on Twitter about like his family being here and stuff, and about the education that they could have.
That's true about all players right now.
Well, I mean, that is true.
And that's true about Kyoto.
But no, I do agree with Machado.
All right, well, let's move on because we can beat that one.
Yes, the Brian Ching Award, Offensive Player of the Year.
That's my favorite.
Oh, this is tough.
This one's actually kind of
hard.
Yeah,
this one's kind of
All right, so
any of you named Kubo, I'm
here it
kicking
is.
you out
It's
of my house.
Player of the Year, right?
Victor's already getting ready to go, bro.
We have a Kubo fanboy. Offensive Player of the Year. For me, it's not even close. Albert Elise.
I will also say Albert Elise.
I have a feeling this is going to be...
He changed the way that this team attacked in the offseason to the season. On top of that, look at how much worse he looked. How much worse we looked in the second leg compared to the first leg.
I mean, I think it's the energy that's brought on the field when he's there too.
Even when he came on as a sub,
scoring the goals, crazy. The celebrations and stuff. I mean, the Black Panther, the Wakanda Panthers is absolutely.
I do want to know. I want to know who everybody's runner-up is, because I will tell you my runner-up for that is actually Vicente Sanchez. On this particular
my
instance.
runner-up has got to be actually Kubo,
so
because of the goals that were scored.
I have to interject. Callowis, Defender of the Year, is Fody for that timely block on the pitch.
That's fair. That's fair. He took my moment of the year. No, I'm just kidding. That wasn't my moment. Boy, that was almost
Victor
bad.
Brian Ching Award.
Offensive Player of the Year, in case you forgot.
Yeah, I guess I would have to give it to Elise because of what he did in the second half of that season. I think Kubo should probably be getting it, but because he didn't perform in that second half, that
that's why I was going to ask.
Kind of tanks.
I can't see a way Kubo would get it, especially how halfway through the season he was non-existent.
Yeah. He became. I mean, you can't go from top-level scorer. I mean, he was running in the top 2 in scoring in the league. Suddenly,
he
consistently
scores. Yeah. We're talking about he's ending the season in the Golden Boot conversation.
Absolutely.
And that's the season he should have had, and I don't think enough emphasis is placed on that either.
So. Because I could tell that you do like Kubo.
That scoreline changed.
What?
Well, because I see the potential that he could bring to this team. I mean, when you brought him on as your designated player and you see what he could be, and the fact is he hasn't lived up to it. And I mean,
so in your eyes, what was the issue with him this year? How did he go from being that good to that bad?
Motivation, I think.
Did Wilmer just give up on him?
No, not motivation. Inner motivation from the player. I think you saw when he came in preseason, he had shut off a bunch of weight because he was dead set on making the Gold Cup roster. That's one thing that kid wants, is to be on the Mexican national team.
Yep.
He wants that rock star treatment. He did everything he could to get on that roster. He almost didn't make it, but he went to the Gold Cup. He didn't score in the Gold Cup, and look at when he comes back. Doesn't score in the Gold Cup. When he comes back, he doesn't score in any other game but one, and that was the Texas Derby, the 2 goals against Dallas. But other than that game, he didn't do anything in any other game.
Was that his last good game?
Yes.
Yes, absolutely.
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah.
Jesus.
Yeah. All right, you kind of bring up a good point on that too. I didn't actually notice that about the Gold Cup right afterwards, and it's just
2 goals. Those are the only 2 goals that he's had since he left for the Gold Cup.
That's a shame too, man.
And you think, and again, if he just consistently scores here and there, he's in the Golden Boot race.
Absolutely, absolutely.
And that's another way that it's just, again, a different season.
Not only that, if he consistently scores, he's not being outplayed by Morrow, and he's starting continuously.
Right.
He stopped starting because he wasn't scoring. I mean, he still got starts here and there, but I mean, he couldn't take the challenge. I feel like.
I'm reading this award, and the more I read it, I want to slap you right in the head. The Will Bruin Award, the Most Improved Player of the Year. We're gonna let you lead off with this one.
You're not even giving me time to think about it.
Most improved. What are we basing it on? Just stats?
Anything. It's your choice. Yeah. However you want to grade this. This is like the Baseball Writers Association. You're voting however you want to vote.
Yeah, I guess I'd have to give it to Morrow because of his increase. I mean, we saw what he could do last year, but that was on a team that wasn't really aspiring to go anywhere.
Playing very different.
I don't say aspiring to go anywhere, but I mean, it's different situations. And then he stepped up in certain situations this season. Obviously, the game against Portland, the series against Portland had a big impact on that. I think. I don't know, maybe going forward, he might be your forward of your starting forward because of what he's done.
Starting center.
Now, I do think that there is still room for him to grow. He still lacks a little bit of confidence. That'll come with games, but there was an opportunity for him to separate himself from Eric Torres, and he couldn't do it. He couldn't score. He just couldn't bring that performance in games. But if Morrow does everything possible, he benches Kubo earlier in the season, and we're talking about him going forward. He takes that spot, and that's another reason that allowed, Torres to kind of, I don't want to slack off, but have a more quiet season as the season went on because Morrow wasn't really bringing in that pressure, And that was one. It's funny because you call it the Will Bruin Award. What did Will Bruin just say? He wasn't challenged enough in his later years here, right? He didn't have that pressure. Wilmer Cabrera, when he came in, one of his biggest points, he was bringing competition to the team because it was something that it lacked. And in the end, I think that's another thing that cost them. There wasn't that competition. It wasn't as fierce as competition within the team.
Yeah. Josh.
Well, I mean, I'm also going to say Mauro Manotas. I mean,
thought it's a trend here.
Yeah, he did struggle at the beginning of the season. Once he's finally scored in the against Minnesota, it was just kind of like, there you go. I mean, he got it, and it looked like the Mauro that we saw last year, you know, and he did kind of take over Kubo a little bit. I mean, I really want to see more of that. You know, I really hate the name of this award, by the way, but I don't want to compare Mauro to Will Bruin because I think Mauro is 100 times better than Will Bruin.
This is great.
You know Eric?
Oh, yeah.
And it's a shame that I would be handing him a Will Bruin award. But anyways, I didn't name it, so on to you, Sean.
I picked the greatest name for this award. What are you talking about? Man, I had it. Oh, okay. Everybody's going to laugh at this. Kubo Torres. He had his best season in orange. Regardless of how he died at the end, Mauro wasn't exactly lighting it up either. So, you know, in all things equal, it's really those two in this race, right? I mean, there's not a lot of...
I mean, yeah, we're basing on stats. Yeah, you're going to...
Yeah, and I mean, and the thing was he came in, the position was not his. He had to earn it in preseason, and he did that. He had a good preseason. Like you said, he had motivation to do it. Regardless of what that motivation was, he played the best he's played in orange. Now, granted, he hadn't played much in orange, but it's the best he's looked since he's been a Dynamo player. Enough said.
I would have to agree with the Mauro.
Get out. Just kidding.
No. But it's because...
It's a fair argument.
And the reason why I can't even say most improved. If you're supposed to be the face of the franchise or the guy everybody looks towards or looks to on this team, it should have went to Kubo, but it wasn't. So the only other option that I'd have besides Mauro, but he had to screw it up at the end, would have had to have been Tyler Derrick. I mean, after the season he had last year, I mean, the guy was on fire all year until the end of the season. And I mean, I guess
it depends on what you base it on, because I think those Tyler and Eric, and I guess it's probably going to go to Eric, but those are more comebacks more than improvement. I think is absolutely what I would categorize them. But
yeah,
again,
I mean,
Kubo
had all the hype because of his time with Chivas, right? I mean,
right. He's proven he
can be that level of player.
Josh's fiance is on fire right now on YouTube.
Is she?
Oh my God.
What's she saying?
Oh,
he can't repeat it on
air.
Oh. He's like, I want to see this.
The next award, the Stu S.A. Award, Moment of the Year.
So mine is actually really easy, and it's very recent because it was one of the few times this season where I legitimately had chills. It was the tifo. The Seattle tifo.
She's just not a big fan of Will Bruin. We'll just put it like that, okay?
Yeah.
That tifo. If you have not seen that tifo, Edson's gonna go find it and tweet it out. That tifo was fan-freaking-tastic. I literally...
The nightmare one?
We have news while we're on the air.
Yeah, I'm just going to...
You talking about the nightmare one?
It.
Yeah, from the floodwaters into your nightmares.
We can no longer put nightmare on tifos because I heard it's a bad omen.
That's like the second time we've done that, and same result.
Apparently it's a bad omen, so no more nightmares on tifos, please.
But I mean, it looked fantastic.
It looked amazing. That tifo was fantastic.
Legit, I had chills. I mean, every fan in that place was cheering, raucous over it. It went up, and it was like all focus went to that thing.
Like I didn't even know they were going to have it, and I saw it going up. I was like, "We're really doing this?"
So
now?
one thing I know, I heard this. I've heard
I don't
this.
think so.
I've heard this, and I don't know if this is true. I've heard this, and I don't know if it's true. But what I've heard is that they're going to leave those tifo lines up for going into next season, so that we can have more tifos like that. Because that came across really well on TV, and the Dynamo wanted to work on TV.
All right, so let's take some positive out of this. We made it to the Western Conference Final, which
we still have to. You got to give Moment of the Year. We got 3 people to give Moment of the Year. Then we can talk about that.
Moment of the. Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't even see.
We still have the award. The Stu USA award.
That's what we're in. That's what we're in. I was just gonna say.
All right, so it's your turn. Stu USA award. Moment of the Year. There were a few moments.
The Tyler Derrick save against Kansas City.
Oh, that was fantastic. Okay.
Yeah.
Props for that one.
I'm sorry. That was. I mean, it helped so much.
I got the trump card.
It not only clinched our playoffs, but it also got us above Kansas City and maintained us above Kansas City.
You say Kubo's
which
goal
ultimately let us host them. Ultimately let us host because I mean, God, if they would have hosted us, first round, that could have been. I mean, we wouldn't be having this podcast right now.
Absolutely.
So
Victor.
I'd go to the tifo. I think this is something the city has been waiting for a long time.
I'm fan. When's the last time you saw tifo?
Yeah. I mean, the tifo's pretty awesome, man.
Especially
everything.
The atmosphere
the
for that
the
game was
Borussia
just
Dortmund
different.
kind of esque.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
With the cards and the
that thing was such a bad idea, though.
I mean, the series kind of. Yeah, maybe next time do the plastics things that Seattle
do. Or flag or something, not a freaking poster.
But I just think
not a missile.
It was set up for what it was supposed to be, right?
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
The biggest sellout in the history of BBA Compass Stadium, celebration of Houston soccer. The game that came after it didn't finish it off, but I think I don't. That's a night to remember for a long time, and especially. If there's not a lot of sellouts to begin the year next year, that's one you're going to look back for a while.
I hope that we have another sellout like that.
So, mine, it's 1 and 1A. It would have to be the Joe Willis save in Portland.
That was fantastic, too.
And the goal from Morrow to pretty much seal the deal in Portland to move us on against Seattle.
The celebration.
I'm just talking about short play.
That was
that was too. That was good.
Great.
But
there is one moment that is my 1B, and it's neither of those. It is when Albert Elise scored that goal and ran over to get the Black Panther mask.
Yes.
That was fantastic.
That was epic. Yeah.
So,
Morrow doing the cowboy hat thing, that was not so great.
Sorry. I completely forgot what I was going to say earlier.
We were going to talk about, I have no idea.
Go ahead and say
he's going to have to hold it. So when we get back, I'm going to take a quick break.
Yeah, that's fine.
We'll start talking roster moves. We have the Dynamo trolling us right this second. Not us personally, but fans.
They always troll everybody.
Yeah. And
you didn't know they hired Gabe?
Oh, God.
They hired Racker? He's their new social media manager?
The Dynamo have made some roster moves over the last week. We'll break that down a little bit, talk about some of the moves, and what that could mean for us going forward.
Right on.
Hi, I'm Andrew Wenger, and you're listening to The Peel.
We're back.
We are back.
We're back.
Thanks for still being with us, guys. Gotta do my thing.
Yeah, do it.
Be sure to follow us on Twitter at thepeel05, Facebook thepeel2005. Check out our website, thepeellive.com. Definitely subscribe to our YouTube channel. You'll know when we go live and all that good stuff. And go ahead and give this video a like.
And share the channel with your friends.
Yes. I am going to open up the phone lines, too. I'll throw the phone number up on the screen. 281-849-7335 Peel. That, again, is 281-849-7335. And we also have a text in line, too, thanks to KTXFDB.
The real.
The real. I was getting there.
I know you are.
832-910-7359.
Or you can just comment on our
And you will later be able to listen to us via the TuneIn app.
It will be live
on KTXFDB,
Thursday.
The real.
Yes.
We are going to eventually get this figured out, and you will eventually be able to listen to us live on TuneIn. Without repeating audio, too. It'll be great.
Yeah, so before we went on break, teased it a little bit. The Houston Dynamo did make some moves on some contract options this week. They did pick up the options on 7 players for next season. Kevin Garcia, Leonardo, George Malky, Charlie Ward, Memo Rodriguez, Felipe Senderos, and Andrew Wenger.
So 3 of those 7 are injured currently, by the way. Memo.
Correct. Yes.
Senderos.
Yes.
And Malky. Malky and Memo are both coming back from knee injuries.
Yes.
Malky's closer back than Memo is right now.
And 11 players had their contracts declined. We'll break this down even more. Jaleel Anibaba, Callie Brown.
I'm sorry.
Ricardo Clark, AJD, Tyler Derrick, Jose Escalante, Boniac Garcia, Joe Holland, Taylor Hunter, Christian Lucatero, and Vicente Sanchez.
I'm a little upset about. I'm not upset about Jaleel Anibaba. I'm just kind of sad about how it went down because he was having pretty good games until that foul.
Did I not say, and I literally prophesied that was going to happen. I mean, no joke. I said the show before that crap went down that Jaleel gives you a few good games, and then he has one just stupid mistake, and it costs the team. And I said on the podcast that night, that was the day, the day before or whatever. But I said, my fear is that it's going to cost the team this series or this game. And lo and behold, just saying, not to toot my own horn.
I blame Sean for that comment now.
So
the Dynamo's demisal.
Demisal? How many beers have you had?
No.
So do you guys have, out of the 7 players that had their contracts picked up, any thoughts? Good, bad, should have did it, shouldn't have done it?
Well, I don't think Senderos' option was actually picked up. He was, it was continued contract. Yeah. I mean, he'd been with the team, 3 months now, 4 months?
Yeah.
So it wasn't like his contract was over. Contracts for
There's so many roster change. I don't even remember who he kept and who's gone right now. I have to look at it again, to be honest with you.
For Charlie Wood.
Yeah.
Just in case.
Okay.
What about the guys that had their contracts?
I think those are the most interesting ones.
Yeah,
so
those are the more frustrating.
And let's dive into that too. Just because, and we'll throw this out there first, and then we'll discuss that. Just because a contract option was declined, does that mean that the team can't go after them further?
Most likely, most of those contracts that were declined, are veteran players that were on decent-sized contracts that their production this year declined substantially or enough. Either their production declined or they were on an injury coming back from an injury AJD. So they may be without them for 2 months. Are
we really saying Tyler Derrick was not productive, or are we just saying he was declined because of what's happening?
The incident is why his was declined. There's no doubt about that. If there's a doubt about that, that's somebody that is willing to overlook the incident entirely. But the incident still happened. But those veterans, they decline the contract option because it's more valuable than they think that player's worth. They want to try to drive that player's price down, because if you drive that player's price down, that opens you up to go grab another veteran player at another position, potentially even upgrade a couple of positions with the money that you save. Thoughts, Victor?
I think we just have to wait to see what they do. Obviously, Derek, I think they're waiting to see what goes on with that case. Maybe I would think he would bring back Joe Willis, but
I was kind of surprised.
I mean, maybe this is Joe trying to barter for more money. I don't know. I mean,
I can't blame him on that at all if he is.
Right, and but in that sense, you're also saying that Callie Brown is not. Maybe you're saying she's not good enough to be number 2. because you're cutting him from the roster, then you're offering him a USL contract, which he can always be back. But to me, it seems that it just looks like if they're going to part ways with Derek, obviously Willis will be the number one, and then you're probably going to go after somebody else to be your number two.
Well, I will say this. The goalkeeper this year at RGV who played, half the games? Edson, this is you. The goalkeeper, Angio. That guy, don't ask me to repronounce that.
Come here and say that on the mic.
But he had a
Borja Anguitia.
Borja,
Yeah,
that's right,
that
Borja.
guy.
Borja had a great few matches that he got to start for RGV. He looked really good from what I've been told by Edson. It helps having Edson as a roommate. I don't have to keep up with RGV. He does it for me.
Ricardo Clark, I think, is one we're probably expecting would happen.
Same thing with Boney. I think they were both kind of in the same boat.
I also would throw Beasley out there.
In that same boat, yeah.
I think.
Yeah, those guys are probably Beasley. Probably expecting the same thing as last year, trying to get him back for cheap.
For cheap,
and then Vicente's
hopefully with him
trying to wait to see what he decides.
What he wants to decide. Yeah. I think with Beasley and I think AJD is kind of the same thing. I think they both kind of, if they're going to come back, they're going to come back on lesser salaries, and I think they both kind of need to understand you're not going to be the starter for the entire season. At the very least.
AJ Lagarza one's kind of a little interesting because you're giving teams now an option to maybe
go
pick
after
him up.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised if I see him go back to the LA Galaxy or
LA's not
absolutely LAFC.
or if he
LAFC.
goes back to
Yeah,
LAFC.
you know where you know where I think he ends up going, and it's only because he's from there. DC United.
I could see that. That's a team that kind of goes that route too, with veteran outside backs. So real quick, there is one player that out of all the players that have been declined by other teams and what have you, that I hope the Dynamo take a look at, and that's Wijnaldum from Philly, who's an outside back that can play right back, can also play left back, but primarily plays right back. He's pacey. He's not Ilsinho level of passing and that quality and that capability. But he's a decent defender with a solid pedigree.
Yeah.
Who's got some vision capability. I'm just saying, we kind of need a right back under contract. He's not under contract with Philly. I mean,
yeah. Here's one. I'd like to hear you guys' take on. Alex was declined. I think Glenn tweeted out earlier today that he was on his way to Asia, which that's what I heard. I heard
it's kind of a shock.
I heard
honestly.
South Korea.
He's going to Asia.
It's kind of
money.
Yeah.
It's kind of like a double-edged sword when it comes down to Alex because you can't play Tomas and Alex on the field at the same time because Alex can't play winger. I mean, he's terrible at it.
And Tomas can't either.
Neither
of them can play that.
So it's kind of like you got to pick and choose. And I mean, honestly, at the point, I don't know who would be better down the line.
Two good creators, I think. You could have found a way to play them both on the field.
They're both.
Wilmer tried it though. That's the problem. Wilmer tried it, and it never worked. They struggled.
It seemed like
those
Alex
were,
declined.
Those were the lineups that had us scratching our heads the most.
Yeah.
When both of them were in the lineup.
I mean, they tried. Don't get me wrong. They tried to make it work, and I just felt like if there was one thing that I saw towards the end of the season, outside of Kubo kind of declining, when Tomas got here, it was as the announcement of Tomas was coming to this club, Alex's production totally went south. Mm-hmm. You look at Kubo.
He felt, and especially with the money that they're paying Tomas, he felt that was pretty much.
It was a mentality thing. But here's the thing, right? If you don't have the mentality to say, look, you're bringing this guy in, I'm going to beat him out, you don't have the mentality to play for my team anymore.
Yeah. The only thing I would add to that is I don't know, or I can't elaborate as much on what the contract negotiations were like.
Absolutely.
I know you got offers. I don't know how big the offer was.
I will say.
I know Corey tweeted out that it was a substantial amount, but that's at this point. I don't know if at that point there was.
Well, and here's the thing, right? We know that Asia will always give a bigger contract than MLS is going to be able to offer because it's just what they do.
He was also trying to go down to Liga MX.
Absolutely. And Edson made a good point that his agent is the same agent as Juninho down in Tigres in Liga MX.
Yeah. Tigres was one of the
ones that wanted him, of course. And Edson called that out to me earlier. By the way, that was really cool for you to be like, hey, by the way, did you hear this? I was like, oh, that's cool. I mean, the thing is, right, if I'm in Alex's shoes, I'm 27. Right, I just came off a solid season, not a great season, but a solid season. I had a good start to the season. If I'm getting offered more money, I'm 27. I'm getting close to the end of my prime. He has to take the money because you're a player and your time is limited. You could get an injury this year and be done with his career. he's got to get paid while he can get paid. If the Dynamo aren't able to offer, and they weren't going to, the same amount that Asia's going to offer, then yes, by all means, go. It doesn't, in my opinion, it is not a back-breaking issue for the Dynamo. I feel like Tomas can provide that same level of production, given a preseason with the same players to get on the same page, to get comfortable, that sort of thing.
Do you think they signed Dylan Remick long term? I mean,
absolutely. I think he's.
There's no way you don't.
If they don't, it's simply because he's got an offer from another team, and it's more than the Dynamo can match.
I would think there's teams lining up to try to sign him.
There better be teams lining up to sign him.
Yeah.
There are teams that need left backs. Left backs are hard. You think right back is hard to come by in MLS? Left back is even worse.
Oh, if he's not on this team, that's just, I'm going to flip this damn table over.
Can you do it when we take our beers off?
No, leave him on there, actually.
Can I save my $1,000 laptop?
I'm trying to give you a heads up.
Yeah, that is frustrating. I mean, he should have been one of your first pickups.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, he doesn't play a whole lot, but every time he seems to be on that field with them, he's almost flawless, in my opinion. As a left back, yes. Stop yawning. You're not tired.
I've been up since 3.
Yeah, well, I have 2.
3 p.m.'s not that. I'm just kidding.
I wish.
12 hours before that.
With that, those are the moves that we have made so far. So their off-season schedule, we're going to jump around just a little bit. November 27th was the option to exercise your deadlines. It was at noon.
For those that were no longer in
Correct.
I mean, that didn't make playoffs.
That was December 1st.
Yes.
For non-playoff cup participants, that pretty much playoff teams. Yes. December 10th, we do have a half-day trade window from 8 a.m. to 12 p.m.
Yep. Then a roster freeze. Then the expansion draft.
Can you let me do my thing?
You're slacking over here. Speed it up.
On that same day, all on December 10th, we have another. This is for after the MLS Cup. Those two teams, Seattle and Toronto, have to exercise their options.
And nobody cares about those two teams. They don't matter. It's like they're playing in a championship or something.
And the blackout period does begin December 12th. We had the MLS expansion draft. Curious to see what players we lose.
Well, you can only lose one.
You can only lose one.
Yeah, I mean, it's all dependent upon also who we re-sign, who comes back, who goes to other teams, who we end up purchasing in the off season.
Yeah, but I think who they end up protecting and who they leave unprotected, will tell you also
the direction they want to go.
Yeah,
Absolutely,
what's going on with the team.
And then immediately after the expansion draft, 2 p.m. Eastern time, free agency officially begins. December 13th, we have the MLS waiver draft will start at 2:30 Eastern time, December 13th. December 15th, we have the re-entry draft stage 1. December 21st, re-entry draft stage 2. And then
that's how upset I was over that.
Going off the top of my head, January 19th, I think, is the super draft. January 19th.
Yeah, that thing that a bunch of players are taken and like 10 actually start for their MLS clubs by the end of the season.
Which they honestly should have taken Jackson UAL.
Going into that,
dude, he was
Joe
lighting
Holland.
it up in San Jose right now.
Joe Holland, do you think they re-sign him to a different contract?
Yes.
Because I mean, the little he played, I did like.
He formed a bond with Rachel Daly because of their connection with England. I know that sounds really like small, not like that. They formed a bond like sister brother.
Yeah.
I mean, it really was. And I think that's what keeps him here. I don't know what the Dynamo are planning to do with him in the near future. Maybe they're planning to sign him to a bigger contract. I doubt it. But I'm interested to see. Because he showed something at RGV.
Even if you didn't give him a big contract right away, you would have at least picked up his option.
Not necessarily.
Because his option's going to be less than if they wanted to give him a huge contract.
His option could have been laden with all sorts of bonuses.
I'm sorry, there's a good one on here. Callowis messaged us on here. Derek was such a nice guy when he signed all my things. Didn't even headbutt me once. Granted, I didn't sleep with him.
Victor, there goes the legitimacy of our show.
Damn.
Oh, man.
This is why we're a podcast.
Wait, we're legitimate? Are we getting paid?
He forgot the IL before that. We're illegitimate.
Well, the good thing is we don't stick to a script.
Yeah, no, that's good.
We have a script. Go ahead, Victor.
We have notes. Go ahead.
No, I was gonna say, joking around, but I do commend you guys on the work you guys have done.
Thank you.
Thank you.
For keeping this thing going and for
56 episodes.
Sort of being the voice of the fans and.
Yeah.
See, that's
I encourage you guys as well.
Kind of why we
for that same.
That's what we kind of wanted. We wanted that. Sometimes drunk. That like barroom discussion that a fan should have, that isn't here in the soccer atmosphere in Houston.
If you look around at, I was gonna say sports media, but really all media in general, that's kind of the way where the trend is going, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, in communication. So, no, you guys are doing a good job. I'd invite you guys to cover the team if you can more in depth. You know, like you guys, I know you guys were out at some practices this year, and I think that
make it out every Tuesday, and it sucks because Tuesdays when they always put like the worst people out there to interview, and then I like Wilmer. I like Wilmer a lot as a coach.
You were so never getting another interview.
I hate interviewing Wilmer because I get why he does it, and it might also come down from the team, but he gives the most generic answers to almost anything you ask.
That's a coach, though, in general, though.
Victor, you could probably answer that. I do wonder, is that his...
I think that's an English thing.
That's what I was about to ask.
Because when he speaks in Spanish, he's able to elaborate more.
So what you need to do... You
need to stop working on Tuesdays.
He can't. What you need to do is you need to go out there when Victor's out there and have Victor translate for you.
He's out there all the time.
And there's
or Lester. Lester's out there frequently too.
Yeah, there's some guys that have some cassette answers, and I know. I would say, like Kubo's one of those cassette guys. I mean, he tells you things here and there, but he's for the most part a guy who. I mean, he was trained at Chivas.
He toes the company line.
Well, no, he's just. I mean, he gives you those cassette answers that most players that are experienced give you.
Yeah.
Morrow is a bit more. Up front, yeah.
Speaking of Kubo, though, props to his English skills this year. They picked up over last
Victor's
year.
like, I do not feel the same way you do.
There.
Look, they're getting better, and the more English that he seems to learn, the more
yes and no, because let's also remember that the club, and this is something I do commend the club for, they pay their English classes. They have these guys, and that's something that's important. They should be able to communicate with the media. You know, these guys. How much better would it be to have a Kubo in front of Channel 2, Channel 26, right?
Yeah.
But I would go a step further and say the one I commend more is Juan David Cabezas.
Oh, what a difference! Holy moly!
Because he's taking the initiative to want to do interviews in English.
Yeah.
Kubo doesn't feel that confidence yet, and I understand it. You don't want to say something you don't mean and then have it be misconstrued. But Cabezas has gone that extra step to say, no, it's fine. Even if you have to tell him to translate the question in Spanish, but then he'll...
I'm trying to remember where I noticed it most with Kubo, though. I couldn't remember if it was the Meet the Team night that they did for season ticket holders or if it was in a practice. I can't remember, but I was like,
and that's probably what you probably noticed it. But as far as like actual interviews with the media outlets, I think he's only done the ones before the games on Fox, and then he did one time the press conference. Where he said, but these are all it's all been with like one-liners.
Yeah. Hey, you got to start somewhere.
Has Kubo learned the meaning of no yet? That was Galloist also.
Is he taking over Racker's role?
He is hitting on all cylinders tonight.
My girlfriend thinks he's a player. He's a former player.
He's not.
he's like, I'm a Dynamo legend.
He's Cam Weaver. He'll get a kick out of that.
He's Cam Weaver from Ontario.
Totally. All right, let's move on. This is getting stale.
So,
just kidding, but it is.
Trying to think where we should go with this.
I don't know. You were doing off-season schedule, and then it just kind of deviated.
Yeah,
because
we already talked roster
translations.
And when do you think that we? Well, speaking of that, Houston Dynamo did tease us all. We didn't say it over the air yet.
That's why I've been waiting for you to say it.
Yes, they did tease us while we were on air that a loan deal has been made permanent. Hashtag write a happy story in 4 words. So
loan deal made permanent. Is that the 4 words?
Loan deal made permanent.
So that's the 4 words. Well, that's not the way you said it. That's why I was questioning. I was curious what the 4 words actually were.
Well, no, but then that's what the hashtag was.
Yeah.
I think it's Cabezas.
I'm going to go out on a limb, and I'm going to throw this out there. I think that tweet actually references both players. I think they've completed both of those.
Please let it refer
Wouldn't it be
to both.
loan deals?
Somebody
necessarily.
says that loan deals plural would be better.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, though, they could still say it that way.
We could just be speculating and
absolutely they could just be doing that,
or they might have changed their mind and got an Escalante.
Well,
oh God!
I don't get a 5 for that.
Oh, I thought
that was quality.
You were looking at
I was looking this way, but that was quality. That was good. Okay, so this is what I'm saying, right? That tweet. Okay, so we've said this already, right? The Dynamo as an organization, they're very structured. Their messaging is very structured. Even on social media. Who do you
think? We should do like a what are the odds? Who do you think breaks it first?
Oh, Corey.
Mark Berman.
Corey breaks it first.
No love for Lester?
Oh, Lester's always the first to confirm it, and then Berman's the first to
I don't know who breaks it first. I just run around.
Lester. If you're not following Lester on Twitter, you're missing out.
I think I follow all of them. But
Victor Arisa, he's gonna break it.
I don't have those connections.
Glenn Davis? No, Glenn won't break it.
Real quick, because I did want to throw it out there. Cool. The U.S. Soccer president candidacy and election is coming up. Is it end of December? No. February. It is February. They essentially, once they get their confirmation.
Which, by the way, did you guys notice that all these bigwigs were here for about a week in November?
Yes.
And nothing, no media availability. No.
So one of the things that's happening, and I don't know how much this has really been put out there, with the World Cup selection stuff that's going on, right, where they're selecting their our supposed host cities and what have you. One of the things that's available is...
Yeah, because I thought they were all decided upon. That's something that kind of took me off guard.
No, they weren't. They've decided on their finalists,
okay.
The ones that are the final cities that are still vying. The thing is that there's multiple roles, right? There's not just matches that can be played in those cities. There's also a city that becomes the HQ. I really believe that Houston's that HQ.
Because they had their meeting here.
Well, not only that, but we keep having these things with these bigwigs that keep coming down here. I'm curious why that is. Why Houston, of all places?
It's an international city.
I mean, look at your demographic.
So is Dallas, so is LA, so is New York.
Look at your demographic here over Dallas, though.
That's true.
New York would be a nightmare.
Oh, that's true. That's true.
I mean,
why not Columbus? I'm just kidding.
No, but New York is the headquarters for the MLS, so you maybe think there.
I can see that.
Chicago is the home of U.S. soccer, so you think maybe there.
Absolutely.
It's a good question.
Dallas, Frisco has the Hall of Fame.
Nobody wants to go to Dallas.
Dallas probably has, if I'm not mistaken, a bigger international airport.
Yes, they do.
So does Atlanta. So I mean, that's a good question. I don't.
I mean, maybe only because of recently you did host the Final Four. You did also have a World Series and a Super Bowl.
I think you'd have to look at people that are here. Maybe the Texas organization is one.
Yeah.
You
got
Lone Star Entertainment.
The Manchester Derby.
U.S. Argentina.
We had College Cup.
U.S. Argentina.
Yeah, I mean, there's been a lot of big games. All I'm saying is
Houston's booming for sports right now. So I mean, that's anything to do.
So that said, you would maybe think that it would be a bigger quote unquote soccer city, right?
Right.
I mean, and that's why. And then it goes back to the question: why can't they fill the stadium?
I can tell you. At least this is personally. I feel that anybody south of here does not give MLS a fair enough shake yet. They don't. Now, I know Hondurans are starting to, Costa Ricans are starting to a little more, Panamanians are starting to a little more because they're bigger players. If they're not going to EPL, they're starting to come here. Look at Honduras. I mean, 3 of your starters
what I'm talking about,
are coming here to MLS.
Getting people into the stadium, because you just mentioned U.S. Argentina. Every time Mexico comes in place here, those are all packed
houses. We've had Honduras 6, 7, 8 times in the last 2 years.
I think it's because of those 3 letters, MLS. They'll show up for a Liga MX friendly, but it's because it's MLS. I think is the reason why they don't show up for Dynamo matches. Because every other match you bring up, it's a sellout.
Yeah.
I think there's just this weird stipulation with outsiders that MLS is garbage. I mean, yes, it's.
But
still,
I've met more and more people that have wanted to give the league a chance.
But see, and this is what I explained to even just Americans that are like, "Oh, MLS is garbage." If you look at it compared to every other league in the world, it is still in its infancy.
We're such a football-oriented city. And now we're about to be baseball, too.
Yeah.
And it's just, it goes on to the whole Fairweather fan base.
Here's the thing. There's probably a hockey team coming into town.
Thank God.
How much more is that going to cut into?
Exactly, yeah. It kind of goes down, okay, I went to the gas station a few weeks ago.
And even then, how much people do we have in this city? Can't.
Yeah, the convenience store guy.
Look, not to be stereotypical.
Well, hey, let me finish. The convenience guy, he's wearing an Astros hat, and he's talking to the customer, and and they're talking about the Astros winning World Series, and he says, "Well, Dynamo might win the next MLS Cup championship," and the customer's response was, "Well, we don't care about that here," and it's just, it's just kind of it's just the fan base here. It's just not a soccer city. And
I disagree
with
completely with that.
I think it's a huge soccer city.
I think the problem is that
maybe
the
not
market,
city.
The market is completely different for soccer here than any other sport, and part of that is you have to go after the international fan base because those are the diehards that are coming from other leagues, other national teams. You got to support them. You have to give them something to go for. One of the big problems that I think we ran into is as MLS began to grow big in the right ways, we tanked. Those were our 3 worst seasons, was right in that as MLS was beginning to skyrocket in popularity. And I feel like that just completely hurt us because, there were opportunities for us to market well, and we just didn't because we didn't have a team worth marketing.
Yep.
And that killed your momentum. You could not buy into MLS's momentum in this city because your team was so bad. We're starting to see it. Look at what happened with the Seattle match here in Houston. That turnout was absurdly awesome. Now, granted, there wasn't baseball going on, but there was still football. There was still basketball. There were still sports going on. There was still Texas football, high school football.
And when it comes to a market that's saturated in sports, I'm going to throw you a curveball. Atlanta and D.C. D.C. had the Redskins. They have the Capitals. They have the Wizards. Yet, prior to DC being garbage the last 2 years, they were selling out the allotted seats at RFK, which is a garbage stadium.
Yeah,
I don't know if you've ever been there, but it's
I won't go.
Well, you're not going to be able to go now.
Not going to go.
But they'd still sell out. Atlanta, who has probably one of the nicest stadiums in football, they sell out now, and they're a saturated market. You have a huge college football presence there.
Yeah,
you did have a lower division soccer presence there that was huge in the Silverbacks. You have their hockey team floundered, but you had the Braves, and you also have
a soccer history here as well. And I just think
I don't think it's been tapped into at all.
It hasn't been tapped into.
Yeah, it's almost been shied away from, if you ask me.
I agree completely, and I think if you were the Houston Dynamo, you go after whoever owns the copyrights to the Hurricanes, to the
Hot
Stars.
Shots.
Yeah, you buy that history and
Absolutely.
you incorporate it into yours.
Absolutely.
And I mean, listen, I'm not against making money either, right? I mean, you make a retro jersey.
You got to make money at some point.
Right, and nobody's against that, but I think...
Well, look what the Union
Oh, dude, if they did a retro jersey, I mean, that...
How many people would buy that?
Dude, I'd buy that in a heartbeat.
Look what the Union did
And
when
you
they
make a
first came in the
museum
league.
Yeah.
With the Bethlehem Steel kids.
Do
They were one of
something,
the
yeah.
best-selling kits in Union history.
And
I'm mad that I don't have one.
And I think, to me, those are the biggest takeaways that I take from these 2 trips, to Portland and to Seattle. There's history with those clubs.
And they embrace it.
And people know the history, right? And it's...
Well, their franchises did it right, too.
And there's...
The lower divisions all the way up to the top.
I don't think it happens without that history. And,
Agreed with you.
Without... There's a camaraderie. There's a community with the fans. I mean, come on, Portland guys show up to... people show up to make a line, right? Like if it's freaking Black Friday, to get the earliest seat in the stadium. And somebody tweeted at me saying it's also about the like the friendships you have with the people that are there in your line.
It becomes a family,
right? Like you do with season ticket holders, people in your own section. And I think that's like something that's not tapped into enough. You know, you want people to. You want to pack the stadium, make it easier for people to bring friends and family, or whatever. Make it, tap into the youth atmosphere, the college atmosphere. Bring that crowd in. I think this should be a club that embraces the entire soccer community, right? The Hispanics, the Europeans, the Americans, South Americans, everyone, and brings them in, and they all kind of rally around the club. And I think that's something that you saw in this final game. And I think that's why it made it so special.
Absolutely, 100% agreed.
Now the challenge is make it happen year round.
And it's not like they don't have the players to market to
international.
Yeah. Albert Lees, Ramel Kyoto. You have Machado.
Juan David Cabezas, Mara Manotas. Exactly. You've got Vicente Sanchez, Tomas Martinez, Machado, Senderos. I mean, the
Kubo.
list goes on and on and on.
Yeah, even Wilmer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, Wilmer's a huge huge star with the Colombian national team.
Yeah.
All the people that America de Cali fans.
And how much, here's the thing, how much do you hear of that history? How much do the Dynamo embrace that history with Wilmer? I mean, why not?
There's
leverage it.
There's
so
not
who does that squarely 100% fall on with this organization?
Start at the top. You have to start at the top. You have to. I hate to say it. As a person, and I've said this before, as a person, and I'm pointing at one person in particular because they control operations.
Well, I think it goes at everyone. I mean, obviously there's a ringleader,
but here's the thing, right? This has been said before. These things have been addressed before. They've tried to do this. They brought in Amber Cox to be a marketing manager, and she was doing it for both the Dynamo and the Dash. Nothing changed. The thing is
that's another issue. Splitting the duties. You have a full staff. You have all these salespeople, but you're dividing them along.
Absolutely, you're dividing the front office, the people that are managing the day-to-day game day operations, the day-to-day operations, the club operations for the engagement of fans. They're being split for the duties.
I will go one higher than you and ask you guys if you agree. How much of this falls against with Gabriel Brenner and Oscar De La Hoya and Silverstein and Gil, the four owners?
One match all year.
I've seen Brenner. Brenner's been at
multiple matches.
Almost every match.
Well,
actually,
I've only seen him in one.
I will say this.
At least half. I can tell you that.
I am willing to give.
Because when they moved away from AEG, right? Remember the redheaded stepchild?
Yeah.
Do y'all miss AEG?
No. Honestly, no, I really don't. But that's a total different, because there's multiple sides of that, right? It's not just the money that they were giving us, not just the helping us kind of with that stuff. But the thing is that there comes a point when it comes to ownership. Those two guys that you mentioned, other than Brenner and De La Hoya, they just got here. I can't really fault them. They don't really have a huge say in the organization, if you ask me. They just don't. They're just there more or less collecting a paycheck and using it for business.
And right, and we don't know enough, right?
But, we don't, but that's.
But I believe the guy. There's one of them that's based out of Portland. I think he was at the Portland game, if I'm not mistaken. But again, what I get to is this offseason right here, right?
Yeah. This is your opportunity.
Just like with the Astros, right? Jim Crane, at some point, yeah, he wanted to be, within a certain budget, but at some point you have to make the Verlander signing to make this team a world. When do we point at the Dynamo and say this is where you have to do that?
Well,
this offseason, right? If you want,
it has to be this offseason.
This is why I brought this up before we went live. You have Atlanta now, who's spending
$13.5 million.
$13.5 million possibly to get a player.
Dude, they put together $60 million on a practice facility.
So, but my question is, when do the Dynamo finally realize that? Okay, maybe they can play this trend for another, maybe 2-3 years. But I think at that point, MLS is going to rush by you when it comes to how much money is spent in this league.
They're going to. It's not going to change. It's ownership, at least in that regards. Your whole thing that you're pointing to is opening the pocketbook, basically, is really what it comes down to.
Yes.
When are they going to start spending on players and spending on operations and spending in ways that help elevate this team to the quote-unquote next level?
Yeah, and I go to the investment because, listen, for as much as people kind of went and said, oh, redheaded stepchild with AEG, at the end of the day, that stadium right there, that exists because of them, and that cannot go unsaid. That's a huge investment.
100% agreed.
And so you don't have that anymore, that big expenditure.
Hey, Tillman Fertitta, do you need another team?
Maybe. I mean, wasn't that what people were clamoring for with Les Alexander when he wanted to to go for the Houston Dynamo?
Yeah.
I mean, I think for as much as it's hammered home. Yeah, the front office has missed the boat on certain years. Is there pressure from all the way to the top?
No, there's not. I called it out 4 years ago. Exact same thing.
But isn't this investment like 101? They've put it in. If you take these certain steps, you're going to grow your investments by leaps and bounds.
Not necessarily.
You win an MLS Cup, you're making money back.
Not necessarily. You assume that, but not necessarily.
You're going to put asses in the seats, so how do you not make your investment back?
Doesn't always. It's not about necessarily just the butts in the seats. There's a lot of other things that go into it. With that said, though, it comes back to ownership. I mean, you've hit the nail right on the head. If there's accountability to be had at the front office level, there needs to be accountability.
I'm saying if it's not going to be able to come from the fans, that's really the only other place that you can point to.
Absolutely.
See, that's why.
And that's the thing, right? Does the ownership have enough buy-in from themselves to say this is not the way we want this organization to continue? We need change. If they're not going to be willing to say that, it's not going to change. It has to come from them. The fans can clamor for it all they want. We've seen it in Miami with the Miami Marlins.
This is why.
I mean, eventually they sold, but it took them 15 years.
Kind of sucks at times.
We're seeing it to some extent with Columbus.
Absolutely.
If you don't show up, they don't have the money to spend. If you do show up and they still continue to spend the same amount of money. No, but what I'm saying is, and then they still don't do anything, you're like, well, I mean, if you don't go, they can't get better. If you do go, but they still don't get better, you're still stuck in the same boat.
Absolutely. You guys are going to kick my ass for this. I would swap our ownership and front office for Frisco's any day.
We have a better fan base.
For the Hunt Group?
Yeah. Because you know what? They care about their club. And they are willing to put...
They were also the pioneers, though, of...
Talking about the ownership or the front office?
I don't think that should matter.
A little bit of both.
We're one of the pioneers.
No, it should not at all. Yeah. It shouldn't. Look at Atlanta. They're not a pioneer, and look at what they're doing.
Yes. But what I'm saying is that the Hunts took it seriously from the beginning.
They did, but that's my point, right?
Yeah, that's...
Brenner needed to take it serious from the beginning, and I think he wants to, but I don't think he understands how to. And if there's not somebody in the...
see it from all...
There's not somebody in the front...
Him?
There's not... He's got a bunch of yes men around him.
No, I don't mean locally. I mean as MLS as a whole.
He just made Western Conference Finals. He feels like he's a success. For him, there are two things that matter. Where you end up and how much money you make. Other than that, he doesn't care about what the fans think. He doesn't. Regardless of what gets said, regardless of how he phrases it, he doesn't care about that. He invested in a club to make money. He invested in a club to try to see them do as good as they could with whatever he's going to give.
Could be worse. We could have an owner that wants to move the team.
We could have Precourt.
Or we could have Robert Kraft.
Callowis says merchandise pays more than asses and seats. Bigger plays equal bigger brand. Look at the Texans.
Yeah, but I'm not buying a kit for a team that's garbage. I'm not putting a name on the back of it. I'm not spending the extra $30 to put a name.
People buy JJ Watt's jersey all the time.
I guarantee you, Columbus's merchandise sales went down the tube this year as things.
As it should be. Their season ticket holders are probably not renewing season tickets right now. I wouldn't renew my season tickets. A bunch did, and they're not getting refunded. Yeah, they're not getting refunded. That's absolutely
refundable.
That's a topic for another day, though. Yeah,
it's happened in other leagues with like the NFL when they moved, and the courts. There's not. I mean, you sign a contract when you purchase something, you sign a contract. There's a contract. Whether you see it or not, you sign it and you agree to it. Once you put your money down, your money's down. It sucks, but that's the way it is. I mean, why would they care about the fans in Columbus at this point? If you're moving the team and you know you're moving the team, they don't care about them anymore. They care about Austin.
I will say that, to me, that is a failure from MLS to allow that to happen, to move the team to Austin, to allow a move to Austin.
It started when Precourt signed on to become an owner, and it should have been squashed right then and there.
No, but it wasn't, thanks to Don Garber.
But at the same time, he's been the best commissioner for MLS for this time period. I mean, we can argue the semantics of what's taken place. We can argue what's taken place all day. Same thing with Canetti. At the end of the day, if they're making money, doesn't matter how they do it.
His job's safe.
They're making money. And that's what I was trying to get to earlier, is if ownership's like, hey, we're making money, they're not going to push. They're not going to press. They're going to be like, you know what, we're making money. At the end of the day, that's what really counts. Regardless of what they say, that bottom line, that's what drives investors. That's how you keep your investors happy. Your investors aren't your fans. I hate to say it, but that's the truth. Fans can try to speak with their wallets by not going to games, by not showing up to matches, by not buying merchandise. But I don't really know how much of an effect it's going to have.
Sadly enough, I keep seeing
Damn,
that.
this went to a really dark place.
Yeah, sadly enough, I keep seeing that MLS Cup dream just
slowly fading away. I will say this. Look, it's a different approach than a lot of other clubs have in that we're going to have a lot of turnover year to year. I've accepted this as a fact, at least as long as we have this ownership. They're not going to spend. They're not going to open the pocketbook because simply they don't really have the necessity to do that. They've placed us with a front office, and in Matt Jordan specifically, that is capable of finding those players that are the lesser-known names or the names that have had struggles in the past for whatever reason, and he can find ways to give them a chance in the right system to perform to the best of their abilities to get the most out of them. And that means that you're getting them at a cheaper price. So we can still field a team that is competitive, which is what we will do year over year, but we're not going to field a Toronto FC. It's not going to happen. As much as we want it to happen, it's not going to happen.
Yeah, it's
he's like, that, all right, cool.
Yeah. No, I mean, it goes back to what I was telling you guys earlier in the program. It's just with all the lowest budget in the league, whatever, you could have still been champion. I mean,
yeah, we still had a chance,
and that kind of puts it in a weird situation.
Year, yeah. And that kind of goes back to the fact of like telling you guys, I'm like, if we don't have anything,
honestly,
more than a championship this year, I'm gonna be pretty pissed off.
And honestly,
that's
think
the
of
reason
it.
Why we're not gonna.
And I guess because now I think of the Houston Dynamo as the Oakland A's of the MLS, right?
Yeah.
How historic would it have been for this team to win a championship?
Yeah, would have been amazing. Yeah, I mean, you build a team. I mean, with the budget you have, you loan players in, and you go and win a championship one year. So yeah, I mean, it's just kind of like you had your chance and you blew it.
And you could still do that next year, and that's probably going to be the story.
Well, I mean, I hope if they make it that far next year, I hope they prepare a little bit better for the Western Conference Final. I mean, that's the
next year's scheduling is going to be even worse.
What is the expectation now? Because the expectation coming into 2017 was you need to make the playoffs. Where is it now? Where is it, like, at least from your perspective?
My expectation for them every year is to win an MLS Cup championship. So I'm going to continue that trend, especially hard now. You made it this far. Your next step needs to be you need to go after the MLS Cup championship. Why not?
But you know what?
Why?
This is where managing that message comes into play, right? They said consistently, they being Canetti and the players and coaches, nobody expected us to get this far. That feels like managing the message that, you know what, this is more than our team should have done this year. So going into next year, your expectations shouldn't be all that high because we're going to be, unless there's major off-season moves, it's going to be basically the same team. You're going to come back with maybe 2 or 3 upgrades at a couple of positions.
And especially if they make a lot of moves, they're going to say, well, we had all this turnover.
Exactly. They're setting themselves up to be able to say, we're going to be, we'll be competitive, we'll compete, but don't expect us to do anything miraculous. If we do, hey, awesome, but we're not going into it.
There will be playoff contenders, not MLS winners.
And I think that's going to be year over year over year. And that's what I've been saying. It's going to be a cycling of players. You're going to have your, 3, 4, whatever that stick around that are going to be your, tier top players until they get sold off to an European or some other team that's willing to pay more money. But I don't think we're going to see this team jump to another level.
Right. And here's the other one. If they're not going to go out and buy big names, which is what the outside crowd, I think, is the one that asks more of it, right? The people that you were talking about that shun down MLS, they're like, oh, well, they need to bring a big player. How do they expect to bring people to the stadium? Go at it from the other end. If you're not going to go out and buy players, or if they're not able to go out and buy players, Houston's a big soccer city. Why can't they develop them?
Yeah.
That's been a complete struggle for so long. Yeah, that's been a complete struggle for so long. There's plenty of talent here. There is.
They're just not tapping into it.
They're trying to, but they're not succeeding. And they just promoted the guy that's been running the academy for years now. And I'm not seeing any benefit from what he's done. And yet they promoted him and added him to the PDL squad, which that's not going to do us any good. The problem is, and you kind of hit on it earlier, and we hit on it earlier, it's a good old boy network when it comes to these different positions and things like that. And if you're not seeing if you're not seeing players coming up through the system, and your excuse is there's been no pipeline to get them there, you're failing as an organization anyways. Other clubs have been making it work. Why can't you? Other clubs in smaller markets have been making it work.
And here's the other one, right? Real Salt Lake, instead of spending the money they get right from the league to go and get big signings, they pour that into the academy system.
It's Craig Weibel, right? I mean, you look at when Craig Weibel got there, he completely
He was
changed.
here. He was a player here.
He was a player here. He understood this system, and he went to Utah.
Could you throw SKC in that same argument?
Oh, SKC, yeah, all day.
With raising players? I mean, they just... Oh, what the hell's his name? He just signed with Man City.
Shaloy.
No, the Man City kid.
You're talking about Eric Palmer Brown?
Yeah.
Yeah, EPB.
Yeah.
Well, and they had Kyle Walker-Peters.
Yep.
He went over, and...
So their 3 last name guys going overseas.
They've had 3 of them. They've had 3 of them.
Look at what Swope Park Rangers have been doing. They've been very competitive in the USL.
Yeah. And did you see that Nagamura took over as coach of Swope Park Rangers? Yeah, Nagamura is their new coach.
Then let's look long-term then. I mean, we've talked about it all day today. Is how long until either MLS...
I think it's a while before they win an MLS Cup.
Do you think...
I think they have to stumble into an MLS Cup to win it.
We got like 4 more minutes. Do you think this will eventually be where MLS steps in and be like, hey, you guys need to pick up the pace, or they're going to push for change?
If they remain competitive year over year, they're going to get back a decent enough fan base that I mean
they'll be fine. And I would.
It's not even just the fan base. It's the way the organization is.
MLS won't.
Do we look at this year as was it a rebuild year and they just build on it now, or are we just going to go back to square one where we were?
No, they're not going to go back to square one. This was
here's the other thing. The window I was telling you about, because we didn't know. Not one of the loan guys, right, is apparently signed, but we didn't know if Cabeza was coming back. We didn't know if Elise is coming back. All the guys that were potentially out of contract that we still don't know if they're going to come back or not. Here's my biggest one, because this is the biggest one in this whole house of cards, if you will.
And that's exactly what it is, yeah.
Wilmer Cabrera. What's going to happen when he gets offered a better job? And especially next year.
We haven't even thought about that.
Especially next year.
About it.
When it's a World Cup year and a lot of nations are going to start wanting to get a new coach for the new phase, this whole thing falls apart if Wilmer Cabrera leaves.
Yeah. You say that, but it also depends on a couple of factors, too. I mean, if RGV next year has a good season with the new coach, which we didn't even talk about, if they have a good season with their new coach, then that guy could be the guy that replaces Wilmer. So, and I've said this before on other shows. That's the future of MLS coaching. That's the MLS coaching.
But I think right now it's really all.
It's very, very, very flimsy. I mean, there's no foundation to build on.
And again, I give credit to Matt Jordan for the work that he's done, but all the signings this year,
somebody still has to lead that team.
And for as much as, like I said, managing as he's done, this season does not happen without Wilmer Cabrera, and that's why he was.
You want my answer of who's going to lead the team when Wilmer's gone? Vicente Sanchez.
Hey, if he develops into that'd
be great.
It's not going to be him. That was a joke.
Even then, you don't know what kind of coach he's going to be.
No, absolutely. 100% agreed. I mean, there have been coaches
Thanks,
that
Victor.
have been
You just decided to make this show a 4-hour show talking about what happens if Wilmer's not here.
I mean, because it's a nice thing to think about, but how many people may not have thought, man, wouldn't it be cool for Brian Ching to transcend from that assistant role that he had to being the next head coach?
No. I have my reasons. No.
We're trying to make moves.
No.
I love Brian Ching, the person.
No, but I'm saying that's kind of what it is. We don't know what kind of coaches they will be.
I mean, everybody wanted Wade Barrett to stick around because of the history that he had.
Right.
But as a coach, he was not a great coach.
I mean, Caleb Porter's gone now from Portland, so I mean. Coaches leave, it happens,
leave.
Yeah.
The pipeline that the Dynamo are trying to set up is that
Siggy
they
Schmidt,
bring in coaches
Bruce
to
Arena.
coach at RGV to get comfortable with the system, to get comfortable with the players, to get comfortable with the front office, and then they ideally want to promote them to become the future head coach of the Dynamo. They did it with Wilmer. That's the plan. That's the way they want to go. The problem is if you don't support RGV and allow the coaches to excel there with the right personnel, the right moves, and you're giving them just a bunch of ragtag players and expecting them to perform miracles, Wilmer was able to do it, but that doesn't mean you're going to find coaches that way.
Here's the other thing.
I got your back, brother.
You were able to do some of that because Wilmer himself coached these players.
Absolutely.
We haven't. I think this season, and then the ones that obviously travel later on, is we're going to be able to see how successful this system will be for the Houston Dynamo.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, depending on who we bring in too. I mean, right? If we have a bunch of the players that were here this year that leave and we bring in other players, that may be a total system change.
Right. For the most part, they've had guys that they haven't been able to correctly say what they are or predict. The only guy, like I said, that to me has kind of been successful is Memo Rodriguez.
Yeah.
And I think I put him in the special category of a guy who just kind of persevered as his career went on. I'm not saying...
I will counter that with saying that Kevin Garcia is probably another player that we're going to see come up very soon. He's had a couple of shots through Open Cup and that sort of thing, and he's a good outside back, and they did just pick up his option.
What about Charlie?
We'll see.
Oh, Charlie's a good one, too. I didn't even think about Charlie.
We'll see. But, the other hand, you have the Brian Salazars and the Charlie Flores. And Lucatero was just cut. He's not going to... we'll see what he does at RGB, right?
Likely.
But remember, this guy was touted as being
he was the next generation, right? Yeah.
And
he was playing in the under-21 youth national team. How do you go from that, a guy that clearly...
If RGB's I didn't mean to cut you off, Sean.
You're fine.
If RGB is supposed to be a team that works for the Dynamo, shouldn't Lucatero have a certain number of minutes he has to play?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. You've hit it. There's a disconnect there. In player development, there's a disconnect in that pipeline. Until you establish that pipeline as a working pipeline, if I am a young player with the opportunity to grow into a professional career, and I'm looking at my choices of the Dynamo, of Frisco, of SKC, whatever other organizational academies are out there, I'm not choosing the Dynamo because I'm seeing nothing coming of those players. Until you build that pipeline and that pipeline works, you are not going to build up your youth development.
And then depending what you see in this offseason, you could say the same thing for pro players.
Completely 100% agreed.
So, first off, thank you everybody that tuned in tonight. I do have to close up the show. I didn't want to stop you guys.
We can go all night with this.
Poor Justin, we're sitting in his apartment. We're going to go 4 hours. And he's like, all right, guys, I got to go to bed.
But, Victor, thank you for joining in tonight.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you.
Wait. Before you get his info, you are welcome back anytime.
Yes.
Yeah, anytime. Yeah,
and you can also call in anytime. Too.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, next time I don't mean to take Edson's chair. Next time.
He's used to it. Don't worry.
Where can everybody find you?
At Victor Ariza on Twitter, ARAIZA.
And we will tweet that out again.
Yes.
And also HoustonDynamo.com. He does post articles there.
Yep.
Definitely read them.
Where
can they find us?
Be sure to find us on Twitter or follow us on Twitter at ThePeel05. Check us out on Facebook, ThePeel2005. Our website, ThePeelLive.com. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel on YouTube, and you'll get updates whenever we go live. And go ahead and give this video a like. We should be back on KTXF. Hopefully next week. I know. We're going to figure this out. This will be re-uploaded tomorrow, by the way.
I just want it to be
last week.
Yeah, I know. I just want it to be known that we did not get to the U.S. soccer candidates.
No, we talked on it for about 2 seconds and it just skipped right over.
We went to
we get that.
No, that's totally
Dynamo,
fine.
Bro.
That was exactly what we
night,
needed to be
man.
talking
We just ended our
again,
season.
Congratulations, you and Amber, on your engagement.
Thank you.
We will do a show next week. Not sure if it's going to be 2 hours. Depends on what moves are made within this week window.
Or if Victor comes back.
Yeah. And then we
Victor
will be
comes back.
taking
We're planning 3 hours.
We will be taking a 2-week break due to the holidays and jump back on January 3rd. And by that time, there'll be a ton of stuff to talk about. I mean, we'll have draft stuff. We'll have
I will say this. If you want to come back for that show after moves have been announced, it would be wonderful to have you back for that show. If you could make it, obviously.
Yeah.
Because
we'll check back.
We will talk.
That discussion we just had was phenomenal.
But again, thank you, everybody.
Thank you for tuning in for sure.
Yes.
We love you guys.
Till next week, guys.
Peace out, guys.
Peace out. Congrats, Amber.